Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Welcome, Roberters. Come on, Bertolino. Thank you. How is everybody this lovely Wednesday evening? Welcome to J is for Justice. I am your host, Jay, and I have a power panel tonight. I got to get that thing off Potato's face, or she's going to let me have it. She is going to let me have it. But before I bring in our power panel, which consists of Maligator, Heather J, and the Potato, I want to welcome all the members and the moderators that are here today. We've got Angie B, Cousin Tracy, a bunch of margaritas and palm trees. That sounds really nice right about now, to be honest. Who else we got? Audra D, Angie B, Audra D. Now I need Lizzie B, but she ain't here. Who else do we have? Mandy S. Thursday morning there. Well, good Thursday morning to you. You are in the future. You and Potato are in the future. All right, let's get that off her face. Okay, that's all set. Hey, Janice. Janice, I want to thank you for becoming an upper Roberter. I think it was yesterday. And Toius subscribed a half an hour ago. Thank you. Hey, Carol, Leotech, Miss M. Hello, Miss M. You know, it's funny. My kid's preschool teachers, her name was Miss M. Muffin Top said she likes the forensics. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight is, hey, Jen Isley, we're going to be talking about the forensic evidence in this case. So let me open up their mics because, you know, I cut their mics Cut his mic! Cut his mic! All right. Hey, Roberters.
Hey.
Hello.
What's happening?
Nothing.
Well, aren't you just full of words tonight?
I just power cooked ribeye
Roberta.
steaks and stuff for them to eat while I came down here, so they wouldn't bother me.
Roberter looking asses.
Nice. Feed them so
So-
they're quiet.
So, hey, Potato, what's happening in your neck of the woods or your side of the pond?
Not a lot. I'm on Thursday morning as well now. 30th of June.
The last day of the month.
It is. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I can't believe it's nearly July.
Yeah, it's a really important deadline tomorrow. Hey, poopy ass, and Laura W. I always love greeting a poopy ass in chat. I would much rather, just get a donkey hee-haw. Wood up, Joel Berry. Hey, Ashley Oakes. I think we've covered all the greenies. The power panel, she says. Yeah. The power panel that injures themselves just walking across the room. Because we just aren't getting any younger. I literally, no, I'm not even kidding.
So
I'm going to show you. There's no shame in my game. Check it. Just got it this morning. This is called lumbar support. And then there is also for my tush. Because I have, sciatica. So,
That's painful.
oh, yeah.
Mm.
I
Yeah, it
swear
can
to
be
God,
debilitating, especially when
last
you're
night,
sitting.
Yeah.
when I was live last night, I just literally went to cross my legs and it locked up, took my breath away.
Ouch.
And I was like, oh, God, thank God I wasn't, mid-sentence because I would have literally just stopped. Because it's just, it'll get you just out of the blue, that pinch, and, it goes all the way down my legs into my calves. It's really miserable. But this thing is actually, really nice. Hey, Nikki, stripper poles.
What?
Hi, Shell. Nikki Two Poles. I call her Nikki.
Nikki's got a stripper pole.
I call her Nikki Stripper Poles. I have nicknames for everybody.
Uh-oh.
And you know
Bye,
what?
Molly.
Oh, okay then, fine.
She's had enough of us, I guess.
Don't say goodbye, bitch. Carol Harttongue, her name reminds me of Octoon Baby by YouTube. Everybody's name I always associate with something.
Well, that's how Cotton Candy Boobs got her name.
Cotton Candy Tits.
That's how she started, yeah.
I know, she changed it to that, didn't she?
Yeah.
Cotton Candy Boobs. Her picture looked like boobs.
It
It
did.
does look like boobs.
Maligator says, let me in.
I thought it was boobs for ages.
I know, it's two pieces of cotton candy
Yeah.
on sticks. It looks like pointy ass boobs.
Assholes.
Madonna tit looking ass. All right, so let's get to the forensics, you guys. Well, first of all, we have to get to little Kaylee being found. And she was found by an Orange County meter reader, Roy Cronk, who, by the way, has never been on my panel. My prayers were answered today by the good Lord above. This man has never, ever been on my Zoom, ever. So, but he was in the courtroom in Orange County, and we're going to watch his testimony. There's a part 1 and a part 2. It's not all that long, but it's very interesting. And we'll tell you why. Potato and I kind of talked about this behind the scenes. We kind of cheated a little bit, but it's nice to be prepared. But yeah, I think we already have some thoughts, but some things to share with you all that we kind of figured out and put together. But let's roll this beautiful bean footage. Look at that tie. Look at that shirt and that tie.
Fancy.
Woo! Is he snazzy?
Looking suave, Mr. Shaney.
Yeah,
He's
are we
fun.
fans of him?
He's all yours, ladies. You can have him.
Yeah, I do not want him.
Oh,
I am not his fan.
No? Okay, so
Nope.
Potato's not a fan. What about you, Heather? Are you a fan of Cheney?
No.
Mm.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Would you want him to be your lawyer if you could, if you were in trouble?
No.
No.
Wow, no one cares for him.
Mm-mm.
So they brought Jose only brought him in, I think, because of his history. Like Jose had only been a trial lawyer for 5 years. So a capital case he couldn't try alone. He had to bring in someone with more experience, and this is who he chose. So interesting choice. I just wonder how that all came about, but they both live in Florida, correct? Or he lives in Florida. And
Yeah, I believe so.
I want to thank Shell. I got this. Hang on, let me go a little big here before we start. I want to show everybody Jose's book. Where am I? There I am. Okay. So I got this. She got it at Amazon. You guys can pick it up. And Maligator also got the audio version of this book, correct?
Yes, it was like $24.
So yeah, there's supposed to be some bombshells in here from what we gathered. So look at this. What's this all about? I can't wait to read this. Win her over with chloroform. Oh, so this is, did you guys know this is why she searched chloroform? This picture posted on MySpace by Casey's boyfriend, Ricardo Morales, that led to Casey's search for the term chloroform.
But I thought she didn't search for it. I thought her mom did.
Casey didn't testify.
Cindy's the only one that claimed that she's the one who.
How about this one? Bottles of greased lightning, which contain chloroform, in the police forensic bay where Casey's car was kept. Chloroform was found in minute quantities in the air in Casey's trunk, but this could be the result of contamination. They were not happy when I took this picture. So yeah, some interesting stuff to look over in here. The wet, smelly garbage in Casey's trunk after 3 weeks in the Florida sun. Have you guys seen that? I don't know if everybody's seen these.
That was the stuff that was dried out and ruined.
Well, that's before it was dry. Yeah, it ended up being. And then this is the sanitized garbage after the police investigation. So before is up here, and then after down here.
Mel, if you get the audiobook, do they give you a section where you can see these pictures? Do you know?
I don't believe so. It just is a narrator reading it.
Oh, really? Who's the narrator? Do you know?
Is his name Sam?
Is his name Sam?
His name's
No.
Cronk.
Let me see.
Yeah, I mean, these are... Who's this? His staff. Oh, he's got pictures of his staff in here. That's funny. Oh, he hangs out with Geraldo. Check this out.
It's
Oops.
oh,
Oops. Wrong one. Anyways, buy the book. You want to know what it looks like? Buy the
If you
book.
want to see them, buy it.
by Perry Daniels.
George
to
Anthony's
get it,
text
too.
to Crystal Holloway from George Anthony. He says, just thinking about you. I need you in my life.
Ugh.
That is right.
And look at little Kaylee.
Bless him.
So
I need to get it. I want to read it. I think it'll be interesting.
There's lots of pictures. There's all the pool ones. There's things about levels of chloroform. Yeah, lots of interesting stuff. Him sitting there getting texts after the verdict. Interesting stuff. He put, the pregnancy photo of Casey. He put Casey and Cindy at Rick's wedding. And how much denial do you have to be to not see she's pregnant? Which we all talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, but look at that other picture. Oh, look at that. Guys, do not look at my fingernails. I've been caulking and painting with black paint. I am a mess. I am a mess. Okay. And then also there's stuff about where the body was found. There's maps and photos. So thank you again, Shell. I'm really excited to dive in. I think once I dive into it, that'll be it. It'll be a good read. All right. So now let's get on with the show, shall we?
Shall we?
Let's watch Mr. Roy Cronk testify to finding little Kaylee's remains.
Bring on the Cronkinator.
The Cronk! Don't make me unleash the Cronk!
On the day of August the 11th, who, if anyone, may have been with you when you were reading meters in that area?
I believe it was David Dean and Chris. I don't remember his last name.
Do you remember specifically that date, August the 11th, 2008?
Yes, sir.
What particularly about that date do you remember, sir?
Find it.
Wait, why do I feel like
Cronk.
Okay, so this is...
What the?
This is, you guys, I gotta play the intro because whoever this YouTuber, let me tell you who it is. This intro is amazing. Jerry said, "Let's cronk on." What are you cronking talking about?
Getting Cronk.
Okay, let's get cronk.
The fuck?
Eyebrows on fleek.
The fuck?
Okay, hold on. I don't know why that keeps doing that. It's so bizarre. Okay. All right. I want to make it as big as possible. And my tank top is on doggy cam. That's not like a deflated dog. I promise. Okay, here's the intro to this. I love it.
Face.
Roy, R-O-Y, Cronk, K-R-O-N-K. I was a meter reader for Orange County.
And do you remember?
Wait, why is my screen blue like that? Why is it blue?
On the day.
Oh my gosh. Can you guys see that it's like faded?
Yeah, it looks like it's like highlighted or something.
I know. Why
Yeah,
is it
it's
like that?
hazed. Mhm.
That is weird. Hold on. I think it's possessed. Oh my God. Turn on the lamp, Maligator. Let's find out what the hell's going on
Did
here.
you tell Deputy?
I got it now. Let me reshare. Yeah, don't turn on the lamp on second
Hey, the
thought.
one night we were all on Messenger till like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
My lamp never did that once.
That's
I even
so
tried
weird.
talking to it,
hmm
That's so strange.
but it didn't
was
like
really-
me anyway.
It
That
was
really
just
is.
that night we were talking about Kaylee.
Okay, that should be good now. All right, sorry about that. Let's go back to, let's get cronked all over again.
Cronk in his shade.
Here we go.
He reminds me of Tom Cruise for some reason.
Cronk,
Here's some
K-R-O-N-K.
wish.
I was a meter reader for Orange County.
And do you remember on the day of August the 11th, who, if anyone, may have been with you when you were reading meters in that area?
I believe it was David Dean and Chris. I don't remember his last name.
Do you remember specifically that date, August the 11th, 2008?
Yes, sir.
What particularly about that date do you remember, sir?
Finding a dead rattlesnake, sir?
I'm asking you what you particularly remember about that date.
Nothing really, sir.
Mr. Cronk, on August the 11th, did you go into the wooded area in order to relieve yourself?
Yes, sir.
And on that particular day, sir, did you have anything unusual occur to you while you were relieving yourself?
No, sir.
Did you see or do anything else in the woods then besides just relieve yourself and walk straight out?
I looked around, sir.
Well, what, if anything, did you find when you looked around, sir?
I saw a object that appeared a little odd to me.
Did you see a bag that appeared suspicious to you?
I really didn't see a bag per se, sir. No.
Did you lift a bag, sir?
No, sir.
And on that particular date and time, sir, did you see a skull, a human skull?
I was never closer than 20 to 30 feet from the object, and I did see something that appeared to me to look like something of that nature. Yes, sir.
Sir, did you make any exclamation about what you saw and found? That is, did you say anything else to anybody?
No, sir. We found a dead rattlesnake, and that pretty much took up the rest of the afternoon.
And
What?
did you have conversation with him during that process that you had just seen a skull?
I told him that I saw something that looked odd to me, but they were completely enthralled with the dead rattlesnake, sir.
Did you tell him, sir, that you saw a skull?
I told him I saw an object that looked like a skull. I never told him I saw one.
What did you and Mr. Dean do next, sir?
Went back to the office and showed everybody the dead rattlesnake.
Did you
Oh my God.
call the sheriff's department or any other law enforcement agency to report that you had seen what might be a skull?
Yes, sir.
Did you speak to somebody?
I originally called Orange County, and they told me that they were not handling those phone calls, and I needed to call Crime Line, sir.
Did you call Crime Line?
Yes, sir.
Did anybody respond to you after you made the call about maybe finding a skull?
No, sir.
So did you tell them that you had maybe found this skull on Suburban Drive?
No, sir. I told him I saw an object that looked like that, sir.
So it's your testimony that despite the fact you called and you said you may have found a skull, there was no response except call Crime Line?
Yes, sir.
Did anybody from any law enforcement agency come and talk to you on that day?
No, sir.
On the 12th of August of 2008, did you have occasion, sir, to call anybody from law enforcement again about the maybe skull?
No, sir.
And on the 13th of August 2008, sir, did you call the sheriff's department again?
Yes, sir.
And on August the 13th of 2008, did an officer from the Orange County Sheriff's Department, in fact, meet you on Suburban Drive?
2 of them came out. Yes, sir.
You remember who they were?
I believe it was Officer Kane, and I don't believe I remember the woman's name that was out as well.
And did you take those officers into the woods to show them where you had seen this maybe skull?
All right. So I'm already kind of confused because there was the 11th, 12th, and the 13th, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is he like when he said we found the rattlesnake? Who's we? So is he talking about when he called the cops and they came out there? Because did the cops go out there on the 11th? Or
I don't think so. I don't think they responded until October, right?
No, they
No.
came out the first time, and then
Oh,
they
they
said
did?
they weren't going in there because there's snakes and stuff.
I don't
I
think
thought he said that he went out there with someone because he said that afterwards they went back to the office.
he did.
Yeah, so he went out there with someone called Dean, and they found this rattlesnake. And he said that he saw something like that he thought was a skull, but he didn't think to ask Dean if he could see it as well.
Who's
Why would he
Dean?
We've never heard of this Dean.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I didn't know that he'd gone out with someone else. I thought every time he'd gone out, he was by himself.
Wow. Okay. Do you guys mind if I replay that? Because I didn't catch the
Yeah,
Dean
do it
thing.
again.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
because
gonna-
I watched this earlier as well, and I didn't realize that he said he'd gone out with someone else.
No, me either. I'm going to put my thinking cap on.
Sir?
Mr. Cronk, on August the 11th,
And you notice he calls Cheney sir, and Cheney calls him sir back. Sir.
Mm-hmm.
date, August the 11th, 2008.
Yes, sir.
What particularly about that date do you remember, sir?
Finding a dead rattlesnake, sir?
I'm asking you what you particularly remember about that date.
Nothing really, sir.
Mr. Cronk, on August the 11th, did you go into the wooded area in order to relieve yourself?
Yes, sir.
And on that particular day, sir, did you have anything unusual occur to you while you were relieving yourself?
No, sir.
Did you see or do anything else in the woods then besides just relieve yourself and walk straight out?
I looked around, sir.
What, if anything, did you find when you looked around, sir?
I saw a object that appeared a little odd to me.
Did you see a bag that appeared suspicious to you?
I really didn't see a bag per se, sir. No.
Did you lift a bag, sir?
No, sir.
And on that particular date and time, sir, did you see a skull, a human skull?
I was never closer than 20 to 30 feet from the object, and I did see something that appeared to me to look like something of that nature. Yes, sir.
Sir, did you make any exclamation about what you saw and found? That is, did you say anything else to anybody?
No, sir. We found a dead rattlesnake, and that pretty much took up the rest of the afternoon.
And did you have conversation with him during that process that you had just seen a skull?
I told him that I saw something that looked odd to me, but they were completely enthralled with the dead rattlesnake, sir.
Okay. So he was supposed to be working reading meters, and him and two other guys were out in the swamp walking around finding dead rattlesnakes, and that took up the rest of the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't take up the rest of the afternoon to walk around and read meters. It took the rest of the afternoon with this dead rattlesnake. When I heard this, I pictured him out there with cops. And I thought he was saying that the cops, were enthralled with the rattlesnake.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't realize he was with two other guys. So this really, really makes me think that they were out searching.
But it just makes no sense because he's asked right at the beginning, did you see anything unusual? He's like, no, not really. And then eventually he says, well, yeah, I kind of saw something that looked like a skull, but didn't think to say anything. Like, if you saw something that looked like a skull, why wouldn't you say to the person who's with you, hey, do you see that down there? Like, what does that look like to you?
Right.
Well,
Especially with a kid missing.
I'm tripping on Cheney's question. So he's like, did you do anything else out in the woods besides relieve yourself? And he says, I looked around.
Mm-hmm.
So what is Cheney getting at? That Roy and his buddies were out searching, or were they going out in the woods to do something else? I mean, what's he insinuating?
If he was just going out there to relieve himself, why were they both out there looking at stuff?
They wouldn't be. So I think that's his point.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that's what he's insinuating.
But
Mhm.
insinuating
Like, why
what?
were
That they
you
were
out there?
searching for Kaylee, or that they were doing something else sinister?
And I think putting reasonable doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Especially if they were on the clock as well. And they're out there looking at a rattlesnake all afternoon. And then just go back to the office. Like, you don't have a job to do.
But if they were searching, and this is a question for you guys, if they were searching him and his friends or coworkers or whoever that was, if that's what they were doing, why wouldn't he just say, yeah, we were searching for this little girl because she was missing? Thoughts?
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of stumped on him, to be honest.
Heather, you got any thoughts on that?
No, I'm pretty stumped on it too.
I think, this is what I think. I think back then, even though it wasn't all that long ago, it was where missing people had really taken the internet by storm. We didn't really have searches conducted from the internet like we do now. I think that if he was out there searching, from what I heard today, there was a $200,000 reward for the recovery of little Kaylee. He was aware, he testifies that he was aware of that reward money. So what if him and a couple guys said, hey, she might be in their neighborhood. Let's look close. And that's what happened. And they didn't want to say we're searching because they didn't want to look like grifters.
And lose their jobs because they're doing it while working.
Yeah.
And never mind you, they're on the county's time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're being paid hourly to read meters, and they're in this wooded area of this neighborhood, and it just, like, nowadays you'd have someone, live streaming, hey, I'm in this wooded area in Kaylee Anthony's neighborhood looking. It's not weird now. Back then, it was left to the investigators. We didn't do that. We didn't go into crime scenes. I just feel like it wasn't something that people did.
If you go in, it's like you're interfering with their investigation, and people just didn't do that.
Right. And not only that, like, the reward, I feel, is there for, like, people who may know them, or, like one of her friends, oh, yeah, I heard her say this, and it might be here, or she made a mention of this or that. I don't feel like the reward is put in place for just any Tom, Dick, or Harry to just go searching, even though they have the right to. I don't think back then it was, like, accepted like it is now. I think
that's how.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
I think that's how most rewards work, though. It's for someone that may know something and they're keeping quiet.
Right. But now it's turned into, hey, there's a reward for this kid. Maybe I can, find out something. I'm talking about, like, social media influencers that are going out and doing these things. It happens all the time now. We don't just get our news from the news. Back then, we got our news from just the news. We didn't get anywhere else. There was nowhere else to get it.
Yeah.
Different times. He would have been looked at as a grifter. You're out looking for a body to get money. I mean, let's face it. I think that's a very plausible explanation.
Yeah, I think so.
But on the other hand, if they weren't searching, what were they doing? If they weren't searching and it wasn't this planned thing, what were they doing out there?
They just both happened to go pee together.
Yeah, it's just
playing with rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
Did you tell him, sir, that you saw a skull?
I told him I saw an object that looked like a skull. I never told him I saw one.
What did you and Mr. Dean do next, sir?
Went back to the office and showed everybody the dead rattlesnake.
Did you call the sheriff's department or any other law enforcement agency to report that you had seen what might be a skull?
Yes, sir.
Did you speak to somebody?
I originally called Orange County, and they told me that they were not handling those phone calls, and I needed to call Crime Line, sir.
Did you call Crime Line?
Yes, sir.
Did anybody respond to you after you made the call about maybe finding a skull?
No, sir.
So did you tell them that you had maybe found this skull on Suburban Drive?
No, sir. I told them I saw an object that looked like that, sir.
So it's your testimony that despite the fact you called and you said you may have found a skull, there was no response except call Crime Line?
Yes, sir.
Did anybody from any law enforcement?
Well, what's more concerning than Roy Cronk to me at this point is the fact that he called the sheriff's department saying he saw something weird. I mean, less than a half mile from this little girl's house. And then they said, nope, you got to call a tip line. He calls the tip line and no one returns his call.
I was just going to say that, like, what's worse, his testimony that he was out there, or that the law enforcement so close to her home didn't even bother to go look?
Yeah, they should have been right out there. I mean, they were looking for one.
I mean,
and they did nothing.
When did they call the police? July what?
15th.
So it had literally been 2.5 weeks. I don't get it. And any law enforcement officer should know that if she is deceased, she's probably close to home. They dropped the ball in so many ways.
That's why she's free right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Enforcement agency come and talk to you on that day?
No, sir.
on the 12th of August of 2008, did you
they
have
didn't come
occasion,
the
sir,
first
to
day.
call anybody from law enforcement again about the maybe skull?
No, sir.
And on the 13th of August 2008, sir, did you call the sheriff's department again?
Yes, sir.
And on August the 13th of 2008, did an officer from the Orange County Sheriff's Department, in fact, meet you on Suburban Drive?
2 of them came out. Yes, sir.
You remember who they were?
I believe it was Officer Kane, and I don't believe I remember the woman's name that was out as well.
And did you take those officers into the woods to show them where you had seen this maybe skull?
No, I never took him into the woods, sir.
They didn't ask you, Mr. Cronk, show us where this skull is that the world is looking for?
No, sir.
And what did you do then?
We never went into the woods. We were standing out in front, and I just pointed in the area where I believed I had seen it, sir.
On August 11th of 2008, sir, you did indeed call 911, did you?
I live in Osceola County, sir. I called Orange County, so I did not call 911. I called the dispatch in Orange County.
And did you tell that non-emergency line that you were a meter reader with Orange County?
Yes, sir.
Did you tell them that you had a route today that included the Anthony's home?
Yes, sir.
You remember telling them your words, I don't know what it is. I'm not telling you it's Kaylee or anything of that nature. You remember that discussion?
Yes, sir.
Did you describe the area that...
So that's another thing that makes me think that he was searching is because he used her by name.
He knew that he was in the neighborhood. He knew where he was.
Yeah, I mean, the media was camped out there. It was a circus.
I don't know.
I mean,
There are too many coincidences in...
I know. I hate
Either
it.
way, though, they didn't search. They didn't take the time to take what was it like? She was like 17 feet off the street. They couldn't just walk out there just to be sure. I mean, we could have had so much more evidence at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're just as much to blame.
Mm-hmm. They let that little girl down, too. They did.
And even when they're out there, they didn't want to go down there because they were scared of the rattlesnakes.
They have
Like,
guns.
how pathetic is that?
It really is. I mean,
You're looking for a missing child, for crying out loud.
well, I mean, look what we had in Texas with the school shooting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, horrifying.
Terrible.
You were talking about the area off Suburban Drive?
Yes.
You tell them that there were 2 little in areas that you can go in, and there's a big long tree laying down.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of swamp back in there. Well, back behind one of the trees down there was a gray bag. And then a little bit further up that, I saw something white. Did you tell them that?
Okay. He's very descriptive. He tells them the way, there's 2 ways in and out. This dude was looking at maps, and I guarantee you that he was out there searching. But he said there was 2 ways in and out. He clearly describes this tree that is fallen down and like a gray, well, Cheney calls it a bag, but he says it looks like a pool cover. And my question is, what happened to that? Where is that? Where's the gray bag or pool cover or whatever the hell it was?
Was that not the laundry bag?
Nope. It
Yeah,
was
he says-
away. No, it was away.
In his transcript, he goes, there was like a gray bag down in there.
Okay, well, listen what he says about the pool cover.
Yes, sir. I was never any closer than 30 feet, sir. I told him, described as best I could what I had seen that day.
He's very matter of
But
fact.
you saw, you say, which you told the operator, a gray bag by a fallen tree in those woods with something white by it that you thought was a skull.
I said it appeared to be that, yes, sir.
On the following day, you called again, as we said, right? On August the 12th?
Yes, sir.
You did call on that day.
Yes, sir.
That's the second day.
Yes, sir.
You told them, I went down, I had to take and I went down there was behind one of the trees was a gray vinyl-like bag, like a pool cover or something like that, and it looked rather suspicious. I didn't touch anything. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, sir.
Did you in any way lift a bag?
No, sir.
When you went into that area, sir, had the thought crossed your mind that you might be looking for Kaylee?
Please clarify, what date are we talking about? Are we talking
August.
about August or are we talking about December?
August the 11th, 2008.
I never went into the woods on August 11th.
You didn't go in the woods to relieve yourself on August the 11th?
He just said he did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why
He
would
just
you make
said
a
he
phone
did.
call?
Oh my God!
Yeah, he's going
Why?
backwards.
Roy Cronk, summoning Roy Cronk. Make it make sense.
We've already established that, but after that, no, sir. I never went back into the woods.
Did you tell any of the, or either of the deputies that you had found a bag that you thought may have bones in it?
No, sir.
Specifically, sir, did you tell Deputy Richard Kane that you think the bag has bones in it?
I told him I saw an object would appear to me to look like a skull.
But did you tell him, sir, that the bag looked like it had bones in it?
No, sir.
The area on August 11th that you went into the woods, was it dry or the ground? Was it dry or underwater?
It was dry.
At the time,
Oh fuck! What? August 11th. It was dry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, think about it. You know, they probably wouldn't have walked in there wet either to put her in there.
Okay, but there's no excuse for the cops to not fucking find her on August 11th.
Exactly.
She
They
wasn't
didn't even
underwater.
go, though. They didn't even go, so they're not going to find her.
They
They
didn't
ignored
even
him.
go out there.
Well, they were afraid of snakes the second time, so
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. They really failed.
I'm afraid. Is that what they said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't want to go in because of the rattlesnakes.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought that when Kane went out there that he'd gone, I'm sure Cronk says he goes to the water's edge. So there must have been water out there. Because what date did he go out there?
Who?
Kane.
Who's Kane?
Officer Kane.
cop.
Oh,
The cop that went out there.
the 12th. No.
Was it the 13th?
The 12th or the 13th?
So then there was water. So what's he talking about?
Well,
He said he went.
No,
He said he went to the water's edge and then he slipped when he came back up. He slipped on mud and then he was cussing him out.
Who said that? The officer?
Cronk. I'm sure he says it in this testimony.
All right, well, let's keep
It's the only thing I've
Let's
watched.
see.
So.
that you were in those woods on that occasion, sir, were you aware of there being a reward offered for the finding of Kaylee?
I believe so.
Were you aware that right around the corner on Hope Springs were a whole lot of media trucks?
Yes, sir.
Did you go
He
and
knew what
tell
was going
anybody that you had found what looked like a skull and bag of bones?
No, sir.
And on that date, in fact, sir, did you describe to anyone that what you saw appeared to be white, looked like the top of a skull sticking out of a bag?
Yes, sir.
And was, sir, the bag that you saw in August of 2008 the same plastic bag that you saw in December the 11th, 2008?
I wouldn't know, sir.
You recall, sir, having your deposition taken. Question to you, sir, at that time was, do you believe the bag you saw in August is ultimately the same plastic bag that you saw in December? Answer, yes, sir. Do you remember the question and answer?
I was told that it was the same bag, so yes, sir. I never came to that conclusion on my own.
You were told it was the same bag?
Well, not really. That was a bad way. I shouldn't have said that. No, sir. I don't know. I don't remember.
What?
If I said yes, then yes, it is.
What?
Ladies and
You
gentlemen,
make no
let me read
sense.
you
I don't
the
know.
following
He doesn't
stipulation
know.
between,
He does
the
not
state-
know.
What was that question again? Dude, he gave me a hot flash. I broke out in a full-out hot flash from Roy Cronk.
All sticking out of a bag.
Yes, sir.
And was, sir, the bag that you saw in August of 2008 the same plastic bag that you saw in December the 11th, 2008?
I wouldn't know, sir.
You recall, sir, having your deposition taken. Question to you, sir, at that time was, do you believe the bag you saw in August is ultimately the same plastic bag that you saw in December? Answer, yes, sir. Do you remember the question and answer?
I was told that it was the same bag, so yes, sir. I never came to that conclusion on my own.
You were told it was the same bag?
Well, not really. That was a bad way. I shouldn't have said that. No, sir. I don't know. I don't remember.
What?
If I said yes, then yes, it is.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let me read you the following stipulation between the state of Florida and the defendant.
What does this mean?
On August 11th, 2008, Roy Cronk made a recorded call to 911.
Here's the 911 call,
that
you
was
guys.
received by the Orange County Sheriff's
Oh my
Office
God, I literally am
at
sweating.
16:28 hours. Second stipulation. On August 12th, 2008, Roy Cronk made a recorded call
I like what he
to
says, Roy Cronk.
911 that was received by the Orange County Sheriff's Office at 21:03 hours. Last stipulation. On August 13th, 2008, Roy Cronk made a recorded call to 911 that was received by the Orange County Sheriff's Office at 15:14 hours.
Hi, I don't have it. I called a non-emergency line and somehow
How can I help you, sir?
I'm a meter reader with Orange County, and I had the route today that included the Anthony's home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I went down to the school and came back, and when I was coming back, I stopped between the two swamp areas there. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about or not.
No, but go ahead.
But there's a stretch of road there that goes from where the start of the road is down to a school, and in between it on either side there's a swamp. And if you're heading back out towards the main road on the left-hand side, in an area, I noticed something that looked white, and there was a gray bag down in there. I don't know what it is. I'm not telling you it's Kaylee or anything of that nature. And there's like a big swamp area there, and we found a dead 4-foot eastern diamond rattle back there, but that's not really the thing. There's like two little in areas you can go, and there's a big long tree laying down, and there's a lot of swamp back in there. Well, back behind one of the trees down there was a gray bag, and then a little bit further up than that, I saw something white. But after I saw that 4-foot eastern diamond rattlesnake, I'm not going in that crap.
See how he said there was the gray thing, and then beyond that, he saw something white?
Yeah. So was it next to it, or was it further away?
That's what I'm
From the
wondering.
gray
I
thing.
thought maybe there was like a gray thing, and then like beyond that, there was the bag. Like, I don't know. It's not clear.
From animals at that point.
Hmm?
Maybe things were just like scattered from animals at that point.
Well, I think the skull was away from the bag, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of bag was it? Like a
was
gym
like-
bag?
No, it was a garbage bag, and then those
Yeah.
white canvas bags that go inside of a laundry basket.
Oh.
It was
Yeah,
one
the
of
poo
those.
ones.
No, they had matching ones. One was in their garage. There's a bigger one and a small one. I actually have some, and they're like
No,
you
it
can
was
put-
Winnie the Pooh, actually. It was Winnie the Pooh.
Her blanket was Winnie
It was a blanket. That was
Yeah.
really
I thought the laundry bag was Winnie the Pooh as well, and it was sold in pairs.
No, it was just a canvas bag thing.
Yeah.
Well, one
canvas.
of them was missing.
Yes.
Yeah, the canvas one.
Right.
And it had like a ring on the top where it fits inside.
Oh, okay. I thought that was Winnie the Pooh as well.
No.
What is Poopy Ass talking about? He didn't say skull? Oh, because whatever. Skulls.
Okay, I'll let him know.
I appreciate you, and once again, I had no idea what it was, and I don't want to waste any more of the county's money, but I'm just telling you I saw something.
Not a problem.
Thank you, man.
I don't
Thanks.
want to
Bye-bye.
waste any more of the county's money, but I'm going to search these woods and this swamp on your payroll, on your dime. Cronk.
Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, hi. My name is Roy Cronk. I'm a meter reader with Orange County. Yesterday, I read the Anthony's route. We got done, and I got done, and I went down. You know where the school is down there at the bottom of Suburban? Mm-hmm. I called this in yesterday. I don't know if this is what y'all looked at today or not, but one of
What?
He said we got done, so it was after they were done. He was
Yeah,
on
they
there.
were done working, and then they went down to the end of that road where the school is, and they probably saw the media and maybe decided to search. Who knows?
Way back up, I stopped in the middle there where there's a swamp. If you're coming out, there would be a fence on the right-hand side and just open, swamp area on the left-hand side. I went down, I had to take it, I went down, and there behind one of the trees was a gray vinyl bag, like a pool cover or something like that. And it looked rather...
See, that's not a canvas laundry bag. It looks like a pool cover.
It looks gray and it is canvassy looking. It's like a whitish, off-whitish cream. Yeah.
No, he said it was gray, but it looked like a pool cover. Pool covers aren't like cloth.
Yeah, he says gray vinyl bag.
Vinyl, so that means it was shiny. That's why I asked if it was a gym bag.
So maybe it was a garbage bag that was mixed with the canvas bag. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. It's just interesting because I'd like to see what it was that he saw,
I didn't touch anything. And then a little bit further up, you can tell where someone ran across with a mower, but the weeds are still real high in that area. There's a
someone was out there with a mower and went right around her.
One tree that looks someone had tried to cut on it at one point, but there was a white board hanging across the tree, and there was something round and white underneath of it. And I don't know what it is, but it just didn't look like something that should be there.
Okay, sir. I'm going to send this call up. I'm going to take a look for the bag. I also have another phone number that I need you to dial. If the phone number is set up for anything doing with the Kaylee investigation.
Oh, what, the tip line?
Yes, sir.
I really rather would not, being a county employee and all that. That's why I'm talking to you all.
You can still do it, regardless if you're a county employee. You can remain anonymous.
Not if they find a freaking body.
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah, and he laughed. Yeah.
What?
That's creepy.
Dude.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
I don't know what it is, but it just didn't look like something that should be there.
Okay, sir. I'm going to send this call up. I'm going to take a look for the bag. I also have another phone number that I need you to dial. If the phone number is set up for anything doing with the Kaylee investigation.
Oh, what, the tip line?
Yes, sir.
I really rather would not, being a county employee and all that. That's why I'm talking to you all.
You can still do it, regardless if you're a county employee. You can remain anonymous.
Not if they find a freaking body.
Yes, sir. You can still remain anonymous if they do find a corpse. Please do that. Do you have the phone number?
What is it? Go ahead.
1-800. 423.
All right, hold on a second. 423.
Oh, he's reluctant.
All right, boss.
Thank you, Joy. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, man.
But he calls. But he does call.
How can I help you?
Yeah, my name is Roy Cronk. I'm a meter reader with Orange County. Called in a tip the other day, and they said they would dispatch an officer out to me when I got there, and I'm here.
All right. I'll have somebody out there as soon as I can.
All right, thank you.
You have a good day, sir.
There's no sense of fucking urgency. None.
No.
Not at all.
I'm
Not
sorry.
from any of
I
those.
would have went right in there.
Okay, Jerry says EquiSearch would have found her, but the area was flooded when they searched it. Why wasn't it flooded when Roy was out there? That's what I'm getting at. If it was dry, why didn't EquiSearch find her? Why didn't they find a big gray thing that looks like a fucking pool cover? Why didn't they find a garbage bag?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a search and rescue crew. Why didn't they find her?
So it must have been wet out there then.
When did they go out there? Because this was 11th, 12th, and 13th of August. When did EquiSearch go out? Right away?
I don't know.
Or what? Because that just seems weird to me. That he saw the gray thing and then was like, oh.
And I'm sorry, but EquiSearch, even if somebody did go out there and there was water, you smell decomp. There would be flies, there would be birds, there would be things like water or not. I mean.
Well, they didn't find Brian.
Exactly.
They didn't look in the right spot.
But she wasn't underwater if Cronk saw her.
EquiSearch went out in November.
Wow.
What?
They didn't search sooner than November.
What?
Holy.
Okay, so Roy Cronk saw the skull in the bag and whatever was out there August 11th, 12th, and 13th. Then he calls back on December 11th. So I'm thinking maybe he went out to read meters on the 11th of the month in that neighborhood. It's weird that it was the 11th. So 11th again on December. And EquiSearch search and rescue was out there in a month prior and found nothing.
And they had
Didn't find
83 volunteers plus a bounty hunter with them.
What?
And they
Wow.
didn't find. Yeah.
Did they search that area?
Well, I would certainly hope so. It's in her neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to try and pronounce this trail name. But Barry D's Road.
That's where they were?
Yeah. Ekinlockhatchee Trail.
That's not their house. I don't think. That's the only place they searched?
I'm trying to see if there's more.
If EquuSearch was out in that area, I would be surprised.
They had
to
a
hear
cadaver dog with them too.
What?
Yeah.
Then they must not have searched that area. Or maybe they didn't go in because of the water, but I mean, that's their job. Sorry.
Well, they're not going to go in water, but I don't understand why it would be underwater if it wasn't for Cronk both times. And Cheryl T., I agree. She said, I'm sorry, at least he was looking for her, which is more than anyone else did. Right. Lainey, did they move the body? Is that how the fucking duct tape got on there? Because Dr. Spitz says he thinks it was put on there post-mortem. Did they move the body?
Mm-mm. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because there were roots growing in it, so.
That's true.
Searched a river because David Rader thought that she was in a river. They had a dive team and everything.
David Rader was there?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. And they didn't find anything?
Yeah, he said, where did I just have it? We've never had a failed search. This is the only one that doesn't look good.
I'd
This
be
is from
interested,
the Orlando
though,
Sentinel, by the way.
like Maligator said, if they actually went to that area. But it seems like that would be an area to search because it was familiar. I mean, Casey she had already said, search local, look by our house, look at things that are familiar to our family.
Mm-hmm.
Packer fan. Roy Cronk called 3 times. 3 days in a row. Audra D thinks that George was the one to get rid of the body. All right, let's keep listening.
Bye-bye.
After any of those calls were made, do you recall making a statement on January the 6th under oath to Corporal Yuri Melich?
No. I don't mean to be rude, sir, but you're being a little vague. You're saying a recorded statement. I went with Mr. Evans.
He's got nerve, man.
He does.
Jerry, I think searchers can miss things as well, but 80-some searchers, a cadaver dog, and
Divers.
Right, and this guy goes out with a couple dudes from work and he sees something. It just doesn't make sense.
Only 17 feet. They measured it exactly 17 1/4. That's not very far.
No. Mm-mm. And I was watching a video today. This guy was analyzing it, and he was an ex-detective, and he said that he thought whoever took Kaylee out there didn't go very far in. So it wasn't like it was far enough in where she'd never be found. So he thinks that it was probably a female, and it was nighttime, and they were scared to go deep into those woods.
And I was just going to literally say the same thing. I don't think it was George, because I think if it was George with his background, he would have put her way farther away and not so close to their house.
Yep.
Yeah, I said the same thing. There's no way he would have put her there.
Nope.
Too close to the road.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
To the police office, and we sat down and we had a conversation with Mr. Mellish. I do remember that.
On January the 6th, 2009 at 15:30 hours, that's 3:30 in the afternoon,
Yes, sir.
you and your attorney went and gave a statement to Yuri Melich under oath, did you not?
I believe so, yes.
And you told us earlier, sir, that I think your words were it may have been a skull or looked like a skull that you saw on that day.
Yes, sir.
And did you tell Corporal Melich that you were 99.999% sure it was a skull?
Yes, sir, but I also stated that I did not know what it was made of. It could have been a prop. It could have been something ceramic bought at a flea market. I also stated I had no idea what it was, but yes, sir, it did look like a human skull to me.
So He thinks it could have been from Scott Skull's collection, is what he means. Hold on, I got part 2. Hold the phone.
Her name.
Okay. And, sir, did you tell them that you had looked down to see the skull?
When I meant down, I was as far from here to that corner there. I was at a height above what the object was, so I was looking down at it from a distance.
Uh-oh,
Did
you guys can't see it?
Point out to Deputy Kane where
Sorry
you
about that.
were looking down at the skull?
I pointed in the general area where it was, yes, sir.
And in that statement, did you tell anybody that you got
People in
within
chat
6
seem
to
to
8
be a
feet
fan
of
of
this
his
skull?
hair.
No, sir.
Did you watch Deputy Kane go into the woods to look?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Did you see him get close to where you had seen the skull? You
Deputy
said-
Kane went down to the water line, did this, walked back up the bank, slipped on the mud, and then chewed me out for a half an hour. That's exactly what happened.
Down to the
Did he
water
get-
line.
He went down to the water line, slipped in the mud, and then chewed him out for a half hour.
Yep.
Roy had quite the experience trying to report something, didn't he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Within
But he
6
said
to 8
water line.
feet, sir, of the area you said
The water
you saw
line.
a skull.
No, sir.
You were asked by Corporal Melich, how close did he get to this object that you pointed out? Your answer was, well, I'm sorry, strike that. If I was, for the sake of argument, 8 feet away from that, he might have been 6 feet away from it.
That's what I said, and that's what it was.
So you were 8 feet away and he was 6 feet away?
That was 3 years ago, sir. From what you said, if that's what I said, that's what it was.
See if that refreshes your recollection as to how sure you were about it being a skull.
Why don't you put the cop on the stand who didn't go into
Yes,
his
sir, but as
job?
I stated, I did not know what it was made of.
Did you tell the authorities under oath on that date, time, and place that you were 100% certain that it was a skull?
No, sir, I believe I said 99.99.
Did you tell those authorities at that time and place under oath that you were 100% certain it was a skull? Yes or no?
Yes.
Did you go on Good Morning America show?
Yes, sir.
And did you get paid for doing that?
I was paid for a licensed picture of a snake, but I knew that there would probably be an interview involved, so.
Were you paid $15,000 for doing that, sir?
I was paid $15,000 for a licensed picture of the snake, sir.
Wow.
Did you collect money
Yeah.
from Timeline?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
$5,000?
Yes, sir.
Did Orange County pay for your lawyer?
My Orange County paid for my attorney until I was terminated, and then they stopped paying him, sir.
Do you have a son named Brandon Sparks?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember calling him around Thanksgiving of 2008?
No, sir, that phone call never happened.
Pardon?
That phone call never happened, sir.
Well, you know what phone call I'm talking about?
I never called my son on that date, sir.
Did you call your son any time in November and tell him that you were soon to be famous?
No, sir.
Words to that effect.
Sorry, excuse me. No, sir.
You did not do that.
No, sir.
Okay. Well, let's move ahead then and talk about December the 11th. Go back to the site on Suburban Drive where you said that you had seen a skull on August the 11th.
Yes, sir, I guess so.
You go into the woods.
Yes, sir.
Were you searching again when you went in the woods
No, sir.
on December the 11th of 2008, sir?
Did you hear that? Were you searching again? And he said no.
Why go back so many times then?
Well, probably because he reported it 3 months prior and they still hadn't found the little girl and he knew he saw something, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
to be honest, I truly believe he did walk in there and see her skull, and that's why he's so adamant, but he probably just didn't want to say that.
But why didn't he go back between August and December? If he thought that he'd seen something, why didn't he go back?
Maybe because he assumed they searched after calling police?
No, because he probably only reads those meters and he's in that area once a quarter. So, like, water bills come every 3 months.
Yeah. 'cause
So
you
if
don't
he
live
was
in-
there reading the meter on August 11th, it makes sense that he would go back on December 11th for the quarterly reading.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And the greenery maybe not have been, as much, and water. I mean, who knows?
Did you find what turned out to be the remains of Kaylee Marie Anthony?
Yes, sir.
And did you find those remains the same place you had last seen them, or were they somewhere else?
I had never been to where that bag was, so I would have no idea, sir.
You've told us about seeing a bag and seeing the skull, and then you drew a map, which we have presented.
Yes, sir.
When you went on December the 11th, were the remains, including the skull, the same place that you had seen them in August, or had they been moved?
I cannot answer that question, sir. It was in August. It was flooded. December, it wasn't. It was much more grown up in August.
There
It
you
was
go.
much less in December. I have no idea.
Did you ever, after August the 13th and prior to December the 11th, renew contact with law enforcement to ask what's going on with finding the skull that I found in August?
No, sir.
You just let it go.
Yes, sir.
And when you went in on August the 11th, sir, you said to us you saw the bag and the skull. We went through that. When you went back on December the 11th, you see the same bag,
No, sir.
same skull?
I would have no idea, sir.
And when you went back in there on December the 11th, sir, and you saw this skull, did you do anything with your meter reader stick?
Yes, sir. I was standing behind it, so I was looking at it from behind, and I still didn't think it was real. So I very gently took it and put it into the right eye socket, and I gently pivoted it up, and I looked down, and I realized what it was, and I set it down as gently as I could and went up and called my area supervisor.
And it's your testimony that you put that stick in the eye socket of this skull and lifted it up to be sure what it was?
Yes, sir, and I apologize for doing so, but like I said, I did not know what it was.
And then you put it back.
Yes, sir.
There's no question in your mind that you lifted it up with the stick to look at it.
I gently pivoted it up. I never took it off of the ground, sir.
Well, it wasn't stuck in the mud, was it?
No, sir.
Wasn't stuck in anything, was it?
After finding what I found, the shock of it, I just really can't tell you. I mean, that was a very horrific thing for me to find, obviously.
And after you did that, sir, did you call your boss or 911?
I called my area supervisor.
You didn't call crime line?
No, sir.
You didn't call 911?
No, sir.
You went back to your vehicle?
Yes, sir.
You called your supervisor and said what?
I told him that I needed him there immediately, that I had found a human skull.
Did Deputy Sheriff show up pretty quickly?
I believe so.
You remember who you talked to first from the Sheriff's Department?
No, sir.
Did you also tell Deputy Porter that you wanted to keep it quiet so your ex-wife wouldn't find out about the money?
I might have said that jokingly.
Do you remember talking to, in fact, your supervisor, Alex?
So he got $15,000 from Good Morning America, and he got $5,000 from Crime Line. And if you notice, Cheney kind of shamed him for getting reward money, and I think that's why. Well, number one, he was on the clock, but number two, it wasn't like it is now. You were looked at as a grifter if you were out looking for a dead body. We didn't do that then.
So he didn't get the full amount for finding her.
No,
Nope.
he got the Crime Line one. That was it.
Wow.
And he had to fight for that. He didn't get that for many, many years. And he also took Casey Anthony to civil court for his reputation because they were trying to make it sound like he had put it out there.
And he's been hounding him for not calling law enforcement and the tip line. Well, he already did that several times and got nowhere. That's
Yeah,
why
I would have called my boss too and said, look, I already called 3 times. I saw
Yeah.
this shit. I'm not calling again because I'd be afraid they're going to pin it on me.
Yeah.
I'd get a
Yeah.
witness out there too. I'd be like, look.
Yep.
He was covering his ass.
Yeah.
Roberts on
Yes,
that
sir.
day?
Excuse me. Yes, sir.
Did you talk to him about the fact you were going to get a reward?
I think we were jokingly talking about it, but it wasn't serious at that time.
Did the joke include talking about having won the lotto?
I can't remember if that was said or if it was said that I should play the lotto that day.
And on that particular day, by the way, you had not read any meters in the neighborhood?
In that in that neighborhood, no, sir.
You just went straight to the site.
No, I went into the woods to relieve myself.
Do you remember talking also to the detectives about the issue of the reward you were looking for?
We were discussing the crime line tip, sir. We weren't talking about the other one, sir.
Going back to August 11th, Mr. Dean, were you real clear with him that you said you found a skull in there?
I told him what I saw something that appeared to be that.
Did you all have a conversation about that would be a good place to dump a body?
I believe so.
You're telling me now that you completely deny making a phone call to your son at all in November?
My son was mistaken about that phone call. That phone call never happened.
Did you tell him that you were going to be famous?
I don't believe so.
Did you at any time tell him you were going to be rich?
No, sir.
Any words to that effect at all? You were going to make money?
Not really, no, sir.
Did you engage in a conversation with Detective Melich in general about you needing money but wanting to stay out of the media and so forth?
We discussed several things. That's very possible.
And did you talk with the detectives about you keeping a low profile?
Yes, sir.
At that same time and place, did you tell them, oh, Roy has to eat too?
Jokingly, I probably did.
Jokingly on line 17. Roy has to eat too.
Yes, sir.
Did you have occasion to engage in conversation with the detectives about your story changing in any regard about what you found and how you found it on December the 11th?
Yes, sir. I told him that once I had a chance to think about it, I realized that I had made a mistake in my original statement.
You did not tell them in that statement that you had lifted the bag, did you?
I really don't remember.
Did you, in fact, lift the bag?
Yes, sir.
About 4 feet off the ground.
It was arm length straight out. Yes, sir.
Arms length standing.
Yes, sir.
You did not put that in any of your statements, did you?
No, sir.
And you didn't put in your statement about sticking your meter reader stick into the eye socket of the skull and lifting it, did you?
No, sir.
Isn't it true that the first time, sir, that you ever mentioned using your meter reader stick to lift that skull was when you were answering questions at a deposition conducted by Mr. Baez and myself?
I honestly do not remember, sir. I remember when I was with you all, but before that, I really don't remember.
He was probably afraid to say because he didn't want to get in trouble for tampering with evidence. I mean, he found a little girl's body of bones, and I don't know that I would have been like, I lifted it 4 feet, I messed it up. Like, he was at some point scared, and I don't think they should be shaming him for the money. If someone goes out and looks for her, no matter how he did it to find her, she was found. And he's no different getting money than her grandparents selling photos of her. At least he found her body.
Law enforcement definitely dropped the ball with that one.
I think it's kind of gross how I was talking about the money, though. Like, Cronk's got to eat too. It's just kind of weird to say.
I agree with that, but he should. I feel like that's all they're focusing on.
Well, of course, because reasonable doubt.
They're trying to make him look bad,
Yeah.
like a scumbag.
And we've got Maligator, Potato, Heather J, and myself on panel. If you're just joining, welcome to chat.
Who are you again?
Me, myself, me, myself, and I.
And I.
Is it true that in fact you lifted the bag as you just demonstrated your arm out in front of you, roughly 4 feet or more off the ground?
Yes, sir.
And is it true that when you did that, the skull dropped out, rolled out of the bag?
No, sir.
What's happened?
I told you I made a mistake on my first statement.
Forget the statement. What's the truth?
The
You
truth?
lifted the bag.
I lifted. Yes, sir, I did.
Did the skull pop out?
No, sir.
Did it roll out?
No, sir.
Did it come out in any way?
No, sir.
But is it the truth that you lifted the skull with your stick?
I gently lifted the front of the skull up. I never intended to move it. I didn't even know what it was at that time, sir.
Your December the 11th statement, when you said it dropped out. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Did the skull...
What was that face all about? What?
Oh my God.
Hey, William Steele. What's up, William Steele, in the house?
William Steele.
Did the skull present itself lying there before you lifted the bag on December the 11th? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So you lifted the bag just to see what was in the bag?
Yes, sir.
And then you see the skull, and then you lift it?
Held the bag out. After like the third shake, the contents of the bag shifted, and I looked down at my feet, and that's when I discovered the skull that basically at my feet.
When you were holding the bag up, it was 4 feet or so off the ground, sir. Did anything fall out of it?
I don't believe so.
Do you remember at any time discussing with Detective Melich or others, in fact, that you had called back in August to alert the sheriff's department to you having found this vinyl-like bag in the woods with a skull?
I told them that I had made a crime line tip. Yes, sir.
Did you have discussions at that time about, boy, you need to keep that a secret? Don't tell anybody?
What aspect are you talking about?
When you were talking to Detective Melich about the fact, when you're talking in December with him and in January, that you had called back in August to report this.
Who are you referring to, sir? The police, or who are you referring to?
All right, ladies. That's the end of Roy Cronk.
So I can kind of understand why he's being so defensive.
Yeah.
Because he was the only one who went out there and he found Haley. Like, he's the reason why they found her. And now he's on the stand being questioned like he'd done something wrong.
Right.
My only question is, he said he grabbed the bag, lifted it, shook it, and then looked down and seen the skull. But I thought he already seen the skull.
Mm-hmm. He said he saw it first, yeah.
His story doesn't make much sense.
No, because he just said he didn't notice the skull till he shook the bag and looked down at his feet.
But maybe he's just a horrible, like, recall witness. Like, maybe he just can't recall, you know?
I don't think he had anything to do with it, in my opinion. But,
No, I don't think he did either.
but I think they made him feel like he did.
Yeah.
When ultimately the cops failed her.
All right, let's get this up. Now we're going to watch some of Dr. Spitz. Dr. Spitz. He covered, Maligator said, Anna Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other one you said? Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson too?
Mm-hmm. He's done a lot of famous people.
He did O.J. Simpson as well.
O.J. Simpson, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a Michigan guy. He's from Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Certify in direct recognition of Dr. Spitz as an expert witness in the field of
Okay, so
forensic.
they went through and they labeled him as an expert witness, da-da-da-da-da, went through all this. Now we're getting to the meat and potatoes. He brings a real skull. Skulls.
You open the bag and take the contents out, sir.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Open the bag and take the contents out.
I like Dr. Spitz. I'm a Spitz fan.
And for the record, describe what you have there, sir.
This is a skull, not the skull of this deceased.
A skull.
This is a skull of an adult human being, not a plastic or fake material. This is bone. And I brought this because I thought it necessary that the trier of fact observe
Your Honor,
what...
Not responsive and narrative and not relevant.
Sustain. Let's give a question.
Doctor, would you demonstrate, sir, what you mean by opening the skull, the protocol that you say Dr. Garavella did not do?
When a skull is opened, it is opened like I'm opening the skull now. So in other words, a saw is used to saw the skull all the way around and to remove the cap, as it is called, and look at the interior
Polish,
of the skull like I'm showing here.
Oh, no.
And
Jewish, right?
like I'm showing.
Israelian? I don't know where he's from.
Israel.
This is the
He's from
outside.
Israel?
This is the
Palestine,
inside.
yeah.
Okay.
And
This
at the
is
autopsy,
the outside. This is the inside.
Dr. Spitz, during the autopsy, were photographs taken, sir?
I'm sorry.
Did you take photographs?
I did. I did.
May I approach the lecture?
You may.
Show you what has been marked as defense exhibit BY for identification.
Yes.
Does that photograph fairly accurately portray the appearance of the skull after opened by you for the second autopsy?
Yes, it was. It is. I'm sorry. It is.
This in evidence defense, Your Honor. I give you a copy of it, right?
Objection.
It will be received in evidence as defense exhibit numbered.
Oh, is this when she's got to see her skull?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With
Yeah.
court
He's not
permission,
Polish.
We have a
No, he's not Polish.
I was mistaking him for the artist in the Dane Crumbly case, okay?
publicist.
You may.
And with the court's permission, may I have Dr. Spitz step down?
Yeah, but make sure we put a microphone on it.
For me?
For both of you.
All right.
Doctor, you may step down, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
As that's being done, we don't get the court order.
Is she looking at it right now?
I'm sorry.
No, it's facing the jury. She just turned her head when they first pulled it away from like the bench.
Oh, it's not on her screen in front of her?
No. Devastating.
Mm-hmm.
He also destroyed her skull by cutting it in half too.
Yeah, he did. It fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, why wouldn't you do everything?
Well,
Why?
Because they were dry. There was nothing on them, and she could see inside. Like she used the light and stuff to look inside the skull.
Yeah,
and when he's,
I mean,
when
I'm
he's
just saying, when
testifying-
they have zero, like, hard evidence, why wouldn't they do everything? Just so things like this don't happen.
when he was testifying, he made it sound like she didn't even look at the head. Like he was saying, why would you do an autopsy from like the neck down? It was like, you should look at the head and everything. But she did. She looked inside it with lights and they couldn't see anything. And what she said they found in there was exactly the same as what he found in there after he cut it open. The only difference is he destroyed the skull because it fell apart and he sawed it in half.
Yep.
That's worse to me.
Found nothing.
He didn't have to do it.
See,
Yeah,
I
there was
think it was the responsible thing to do was to do it and do it the most thorough that you could.
But it was not like he was.
I know, but she's dead. I mean, I'm not trying to be crass, but it's a skull. It's an autopsy. There's nothing good about an autopsy. There's nothing good about when people do have flesh and they have autopsies. So autopsies aren't pretty.
That's the only reason they need to open the skull, though, is if they're looking for like damage inside, so they can see fractures or if there's contents inside.
Well, he
the head,
seems to claim that if they looked in, they could see signs of old abuse.
Yeah, but they could see that by looking through the bottom as well, because you can see into the hole inside by looking through the bottom. It was dry. So
I just disagree. I think it should have been as thorough as possible, just being that it was such a high-profile case.
But he found nothing that Dr. G didn't find, and then
No, but he could have. He didn't. But what if he did? What if he had? What if he had, though? What if there was something in there that he found? I'm not saying he did, but I'm just saying there should be no room for any what ifs. That's all.
But if there's no tissue and you can look upside down into the skull once the jaw's gone, you can look through the eye socket.
No, I get it. I get what you're saying. I just disagree. If it was my child, I would want it done thoroughly. I would want everything examined. And if I heard this, I'd be disheartened to hear that it wasn't. Because he did say you could see signs of past like concussions or fractures, things like that. Now, he didn't find any, but I'm just saying if he had, this would be a huge problem. So there shouldn't have been that room for error if he had found something. That's all I'm saying.
What is interesting about what he found, though, is that like when the body's decomposed and stuff, it leaves marks, so you can tell what position the skull was lying in. And he said it was laying on its left-hand side. But when they found the skull, it was upright, apparently.
Correct.
Well, Cronk picked it up.
Mm-hmm. And then when they found it again, it was sat upright. So when Cronk picked it up, he said he didn't actually lift it off the ground. He said he just pivoted it so it was facing upwards so that he could see it was an actual skull. He said it didn't come off the ground.
Yeah, he said he just tilted it up.
But we can't really believe him because he also didn't tell he shook the bag and it
He also said he was out there to take a leak. So
yeah.
And he didn't say he shook the bag right away and then he noticed the skull at his feet. So it could have fell out of the bag.
Amanda said, what about hairline fractures? But they took x-rays as well.
Yep.
So they'd be able to see them.
I don't know, but if I had to choose after hearing both testimonies from Dr. G and this guy, I would want this guy to perform the autopsy. I feel like he would be more thorough. I don't know. That's just me. All right, let's continue.
Mr. Mason, can you switch places? He'll be over there and you go over there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That would be better if he stands over there.
Over this side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll stand behind you. I think they can hear me. I don't know. Dr. Spitz, is that
we can
the
hear
enlarged?
you. Jesus.
Yeah, that's loud.
Yeah, seriously.
I know. That's loud and beefy.
I know, but he has to be able to communicate with his witness, so. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. This photograph enlarged here is the enlargement of the one that you took during the autopsy.
Yes.
Would you tell the court and the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what, if anything, is remarkable about the contents of the photograph that we have before them?
Well, this is what it represents the base of the skull, the bottom of this box. The lid is here, taken off by sawing all the way around. This is what you then would see.
Welcome,
if you look
Raiden.
into the box. And this is where the vertebral column, the spine connects, and the spinal cord goes in here and into the brain. And this is the front. This is the back.
I've seen it, Skulls.
Actually, it should be reversed. Do you want to do it with me?
Do it the right way.
Well.
Oh my God. See, this is the problem with Dr. G, you guys. All of you guys in chat. I love Dr. G. I love Dr. G.
I love Dr. G.
See, you guys love her because she has her show. I don't think she should be able to be an expert witness. I think that people like her because she has this show and she's looked at as like kind of more of a celebrity than just a medical examiner. And I don't like that.
Well, I used to watch her show. And I think that the reason why I watched this trial is because she was going to be in it.
Oh, see, if you got jurors on there, they're like, oh, I love Dr. G. It's just not fair.
Well, I think she is good as well, though. So.
I'm not saying she's not, but I think that kind of muddies the waters a little bit. That she has this show and she has this like TV personality as well.
But here's the thing. He cut the skull open, but how he couldn't show abuse because when he cut it open, it crumbled to pieces.
Well, he couldn't have predicted that. I mean, Jerry, welcome.
Roberta can never examine it because it's now in pieces.
Who can't?
No one can because it's in pieces. So now if they ever wanted to re-examine it with someone else, they couldn't because he destroyed it.
I don't think they would be re-examining it. I mean, unless something happened, but...
That's what I'm saying. You never know. What if they do find somebody and they re-examine and say, this is what happened?
If there's nothing there, though, what are they going to find? If there was no evidence of anything, what are they going to find?
Nothing.
There's nothing to be found. But what was interesting is Dr. Spitz says that he thinks that they could have been able to tell if she drowned by her bones. How?
You know, Dr. G explained that, but I don't think that was allowed in because she wasn't allowed back on the stand to counter what he had been saying. She was only up once.
Well, and I think that whole episode of hers was nothing but a rebuttal against him because she didn't want those comments out about her without getting the last word. And I don't know. I just think it's petty.
Like,
but why should she get a chance to respond? I mean, do your job. You're a medical examiner. Do the job, do the autopsy, and be done with it.
And she wasn't hired as an expert, like Cheryl said. She was the ME at the time, so it's not like she went.
But she had a show. To me, that makes it a little bit different. If Dr. Spitz had a show, I'd say the same thing. He's known. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just too high profile of a case for that shit, but that's just me. But hey, Casey's at the bar having fun.
Yep.
I got it.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
So this is the front, this is the back, this is the right side, this is the left side. And this is the reverse. That means this is the left side because if you flip it over, then this part would go onto here. And what you see here is in this area, which is the left side of the skull, the base of the skull, you see black flecks. These black flecks are material which represent the last and permanent result of decomposition. What that means is that the brain, which fills this entire space, is gone. The brain has dissolved, but some parts like iron, magnesium, phosphate, sodium, chloride, all kinds of elements like that remain permanently. They don't disappear. This is ashes to ashes and dust to dust, what you read in the Bible. And this is the dust which is remaining. And this amount of dust would have been probably just less than an ounce. But of course here, there is no 1 ounce because some of this dust has been removed, has gone, I don't know, lost. And could have been, there could have been water, there could have been whatever, anyway, it's lost. These specks are attached to, they came down and they just remained. And they indicate the position of this skull over the decomposition process. Decomposition process takes time, quite a lot of time, to end up in just this representing the specks to be left over after the entire brain has gone. So this indicates the brain has disappeared and those elements sunk by gravity to that place. And very little by little by little, over months, this has occurred. And it tells you the position of the skull.
What was the position of the skull?
The skull was positioned in a left side of the skull down. That means if this is the ground, the skull would have been something like this.
Show the jury with our friend here, sir, the position that it would have been throughout the decomposition.
Well, here is the base of the skull. This and that are the same. And the specks are localized in this area on the left side, and the skull would have been like this, positioned like this. This would have been the position of the skull. Maybe with the face a little bit up, because it seems to be somewhat more to the back, so maybe a little bit like this.
All right, thank you, sir. You can return up there.
Amanda, I've never seen that.
Has the jury had enough time to look at this?
Yeah, she turns her head every time she gets a glimpse of that.
No, he does not have the little girl's skull in court.
Dr. Spitz, did you review the records and documents contained in Dr. Garavalia's report of autopsy?
I did.
What, if any, problems did you detect?
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah. What, if any, problems did you detect, sir, or deficiencies in the report?
And he's German. I looked him up.
He's from Israel, though.
Relevancy of
That's where he grew
deficiencies in the
up.
report that weren't testified to in this case and aren't an issue.
I examined the entire skeleton. There was very little, if anything, any bones missing. And if there were, there would be little bones, little parts, but most by far of the skeleton was available to be examined. The skull had not been opened, so I opened it, and I showed the jury what I saw, what I found. There are certain things I did not find, which could have been there, but I did not find that they were. Like, for instance, some discoloration of certain parts of the skull, like the place where the ear is, the mechanism of the ear, the little protrusion of bone in back of the lower jaw, to the side here, on the side of the skull, and the mechanism of the ear, which is at the base, which is inside here and there. There could have been some discoloration, which I did not see. There were no fractures, no blows that I could identify on the skull. The skull was intact, in other words, undamaged. There was some damage to some bones, some long bones, meaning arms and legs, and other longer bones, which was due to post-mortem, meaning after death, predation by animals, meaning where animals find bones with some flesh on them and they go ahead and chew on those parts. That I found. But other than that, there was no damage. There was an area of one of the longer bones of the thigh, because the thigh is a fairly long bone in a child, 3 years old, probably around 5 inches maybe, and that had been opened by those who did the first autopsy. I surmised that they would do. When I saw that had been opened, I thought, well, they probably opened it in order to take specimens from the bone marrow.
Let me object to the narrative. I think we've gone away from the question that was answered.
I thought that they had done this, opened the bone to get access to the bone marrow, to the bone marrow cavity, for the purpose of removing certain material that would be helpful in diagnosis. But I subsequently learned that had not been the case. So, based on this examination, the cause of death remained unknown for those who did the first autopsy, and for me to some extent as well.
They said there was no marrow because it was all dried up, gone.
You recall reading Dr. Garavalia's statement references to duct tape?
I understand that there were some sections of duct tape on the lower face that were loosely on the face, but since I should say there was not a shred, I've not said that before, not a shred of soft tissue, no skin, no muscle, no fat, no nerves, no blood vessels, no nothing. So much so that when I came to Orlando to handle this, I brought a whole bunch of gloves, I bought an apron, I bought to protect myself from possible contamination. I used nothing because the skeleton that I received was in this condition. And like I touch this now without gloves, without apron, that's how I touched the other one. This is totally clean, and there's no bacteria, no nothing to contaminate me from handling this, just as little as there was to be contaminated, to be infected, or to not allowing me to handle those remains of this 3-year-old child. Consequently, I did not need any of the material that I brought. The tape was not there when I got the remains. The tape on pictures shows being to the side of the lower face, somewhere here on the left side, on the right side, if I remember correctly, hanging.
The photographs speak for themselves. The jury has seen them and can interpret them for themselves.
Overruled.
Hanging on hair and hanging on roots of vegetation of the area that had, in the period where this was sort of in an excavated, in a little lower, partially under the surface of the ground. Vegetation had grown into this material. Plants benefit from the minerals and chemistry that is generated by decomposition.
Dr. Spitz, in the report from Dr. Cavalia, she indicated that the duct tape was clearly placed prior to decomposition. What, if any, opinion do you have regarding that assertion, sir?
Well, I have some problem with that. Because when duct tape is applied to the skin and the skin decomposes, the duct tape just doesn't go anywhere. The duct tape just doesn't do anything. The duct tape becomes loose on the skeletal structure. In this case, the face. The only thing that held the duct tape there was the roots and the hair that originally. I don't know in what fashion the duct tape came in contact with this. There was nothing on the bone that would suggest duct tape. There was nothing on the duct tape that would suggest the application on the skin either. So I have some difficulty with identifying when this duct tape was placed, other than to say that it is my strong feeling and opinion that this duct tape was perhaps placed there to hold the lower jaw in place. Because if the head is subjected to as complete a decomposition as it did, where there is absolutely no trace of flesh on this head or in this head, if I would have picked this up like this, the lower jaw would have dropped, just like I'm going to show you right now. Because this lower jaw is attached by, this would be like this. That's how, well, or like that. I would touch this to remove it and note what happens. The lower jaw falls down.
Can we pause?
So,
Right now.
being that it fell down, if the duct tape was attached to the skull, it would have been held somewhat by the roots and maybe by
Haley's
the
jaw was
fact
still
that there was
attached
hair
to the duct tape. It never
between the duct tape and the lower jaw.
The tape was
And sir, would you have expected there to be DNA on the duct tape if in fact it had been placed over the face?
I would have expected DNA, yes.
And would that be true whether it was placed?
I mean, if this was the duct tape was attached to the face, there would have been DNA from the face on the duct tape. I put duct tape on my arm, and when I removed it, I pulled out hair, sometimes with roots, from my arm on the duct tape.
But they even said there was no residue left
Based
on the
on the
Yeah,
There's no,
She went to get a plate of food.
no doubt in my mind that if you would have had duct tape on the skin, there would have been some evidence of the presence of that skin DNA on that duct tape.
and
For
through
the simple
process-
reason that there is a firm connection between the duct tape and the skin, to the point where decomposition is always less in an area of pressure against something, against a wall, against pieces of clothing that are tight. The decomposition is less in those areas where there's no air coming in, because bacteria also need to live, and bacteria are what cause decomposition.
All right.
Jay,
And then is it your opinion, sir, that the tape was not
Potatoes. She went to
put
get a plate
on
of food.
the face
Oh man,
before
He texted
decomposition, even
I
antemortem?
can't see it.
No, it was not. I think that the duct tape was a later event, not an early event.
After decomposition.
After decomposition.
Sir, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what the term adipocere means.
Adipocere is a stage in decomposition when the tissue becomes broken down, slimy, smelly, You'll have to excuse me the comparison, but that is the comparison we pathologists use to compare. We are not always very elegant in our descriptions. We call it soapy. It's like soap. It's like soap. Adipocere is like soap. It is a special, especially fat undergoes adipocere. That is like soap, broken down to a consistency that is similar to wet soap.
Do you have an opinion, sir, as to how long it takes for adipocere to develop?
Adipocere develops at...
Can we approach?
You may proceed.
You ruling? The question to you, sir, was how long does it take for adipocere to develop?
Okay, so sorry, I'm back. And you know you're a true crime aficionado when you can eat dinner while you watch this.
Hello, welcome back.
Adipocere under optimal conditions, that means under conditions of warm environment, will begin to develop such that we can call it adipocere.
Okay, the
within
girls
like
wanted
10
to
or 12
pause.
days.
They wanted to say something.
Did you find, sir, the apparent presence of any adipocere?
Oh, no, absolutely not. There was, like I said, there is...
So he was saying that the tape was holding the skull together, like the mandible was held to the skull by the tape, but it actually wasn't. It was held together because the hair, like as she decomposed, the hair had fallen down around the base of the skull and it had made like mats, and through the mats was roots that had grown, and that's what held the mandible to the skull. So then when they cut the tape, it all came apart. So he was saying that the tape was placed after decomposition, but it couldn't have been because for it to have roots and stuff growing through it, it would have had to have been out there for months.
Right. And they said there was no residue left on the tape at all, like no
Yeah.
stickiness. It was all gone.
There was nothing. It was just fibers, and the fibers had fused with the hair as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it must have been placed on her hair for it to be fused into that place, and then for the hair to go over the tape and make mats.
And he even admitted that there were roots and things found in it because he brings up the whole idea that decomposition is good for the plants and helps it grow, and that's why they were stuck to the tape.
Yeah, I mean, they said the roots were grown through the bag, like the laundry bag, everything through. They were grown. It was through everything.
They were everywhere. And he's also talking about DNA not being on the tape, but she was dry, like being out in the elements and stuff for 6 months. The DNA is going to be compromised anyway. Like sometimes you don't even leave DNA. Say like on the outside of the tape, they didn't find fingerprints or anything, but there could have been, and it would have just been destroyed. And the same on the inside. Because he was saying it couldn't have touched her face or touched her skin.
Everyone is so about DNA. Like nowadays, we think we can't solve a case without DNA.
Yeah.
And it's not true.
It's not.
Crimes were solved for ages before DNA was even a thing.
Yeah.
I think we just struggle with circumstantial evidence sometimes.
No, and I get the circumstantial, but like for him to say it was placed on after the decomposition makes no sense to me. I mean, there was
But that's all they have is circumstantial evidence. They don't have anything linking her death to anybody.
Do you believe it was put on after the decomp?
I feel like that's kind of far-fetched that someone's going to risk going out there to like put duct tape on a dead body. Why?
And for what?
Yeah, there's
like the rest of it.
Like, why would you do that?
Right.
You wouldn't.
You wouldn't, yeah.
It doesn't make
Not
any
very
sense.
probable.
Thing happen.
And him using the example of putting tape on his own arm. Like, that's not the same. Just thought that was ridiculous. I just think he's being used to discredit the prosecution's autopsy.
There's no more soft tissue on that skull like on this skull, compared to this skull.
Based on your review of Dr. Gavalier's report, hold on a second. You reviewed the whole thing.
I'm sorry?
You reviewed all of Dr. Gavalier's report,
Yes,
including the toxicology report
including the toxicology,
and anthropology reports.
anthropology reports.
Were you able to determine, sir, if there is any evidence as to the cause of death in this case?
Well, you can rule out certain causes of death, but you cannot answer the definitive question of what this person, this child, really died from. She could have died of certain conditions that at this point we don't see. But you cannot rule out all conditions, but you can rule out some. You could, for example, rule out that there was a skull fracture. There was no skull fracture.
And as a medical examiner, would you also reasonably rule out one of the other four, like suicide?
Oh, yeah. I would rule out suicide.
Can you, from the evidence, sir, rule out accidental death?
No.
Now, there's a difference between cause of death and manner of death, correct?
Yes.
What, if any, opinion do you have, sir, as to the manner of death in this case?
The manner of death means, like I said already, natural causes, accident, suicide, homicide, and natural causes. There are 4 classifications for manner of death. Cause of death is something else. Cause of death is pneumonia, gunshot wound, lots of causes of death. But manner of death, there are only 4. Homicide, suicide, natural causes, or accident.
In this case, do you know what the manner of death is?
The manner of death, I would not be able to tell you. Based on the examination as it stands today, I could not tell you what the manner of death is.
Now, sir, finally, do you know approximately how many autopsies you have conducted in your career around the world?
I have either conducted or supervised the residents doing autopsies on approximately a total of 60,000.
60,000?
60,000. I've been practicing forensic pathology for 56 years.
Hang on just one second, please. No further questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take a 10-minute recess before we proceed with cross-examination. Okay, doctor, you ready? You ready, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, let's return to jury. Okay, state recognized presence of jury.
I do.
Defense? Yes, sir. All right, you cross-examination.
Doctor, if you could kind of turn that screen a little bit, because I can't really see you down there. Thank you, that's perfect. We'll have you look at the screen in a minute, but for right now, that's great. Doctor, a medical legal investigation, particularly in determining manner of death, requires consideration of information outside of merely the medical evaluation of the remains, doesn't it?
That's correct.
What information about this case, that is the investigation of this case, were you given in order for you to render the opinions you rendered on direct examination?
Well, I was given information of the first autopsy, whatever is included in that autopsy report. I was given information, I was permitted to go to the scene of where the body was found. I went to the house as well, to the house where the people that have an input into this case resided.
The Anthony home.
The Anthony home.
Okay.
I was, well, that's about it.
Well, but in order to do an adequate medical legal investigation involving manner of death, you need to know the surrounding circumstances revealed by the investigation, not just the medical aspects, but the entire background.
I understand that. And I asked questions of those who know about
Hey,
the
Arkansas.
case. I asked to give me information that I wanted to have, and I received that information. I cannot tell you now each and every question that I asked, but I asked sufficient questions to allow me to have a good idea about what I think happened here.
Who did you ask?
I asked, Mr. Baez I asked. I asked Mr. Mason. I asked, I think I spoke, if I'm not mistaken, I spoke to the people in the home, some of them that I met over there.
Who did you speak to? Did you speak to the Anthonys?
In the Anthony home. I don't remember who those people were.
Did you read any of the police reports?
I did have police reports, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, you hadn't mentioned that. Tell me about the police report.
That's right. I had those too.
Which ones?
I couldn't tell you. I didn't know that there were.
Tell us what your
different
understanding of the predicating facts of this case are leading up to the finding of the body. What is your understanding? Those facts that you used in your testimony, your determination and opinion you gave to Mr. Mason on direct.
Well, I understand that there was some time, a lapse of time of a month between the disappearance of the child and when a police report was made.
Now, aren't the facts of the last time anyone saw a victim always extremely important in a medical legal investigation?
Yes. Everything needs to be evaluated together, but not independently. That's why everything has to be fitting together like a jigsaw puzzle.
So are you done?
I'm sorry?
I just want to make sure you're done with your answer. You paused. I want to make sure that you're done before I go on.
It all needs to fit together. You cannot take one item by itself, but you have to evaluate the entirety of the picture.
What is your understanding of the events of the last time that Kaylee Marie Anthony was seen alive?
Would you ask me that again?
Sure. What is your understanding of the events of the last time Kaylee Marie Anthony, that's the victim in this case, was seen alive?
I know that Kaylee Anthony was allegedly taken to a babysitter. Is that what you mean? That's my understanding, that's something that occurred when she was.
I just want the jury to know what information you had about the background of this case, which you acknowledge is essential, in coming to the opinion that the manner of death is undetermined, as you expressed to Mr. Mason on direct. I want the jury to know what facts you had in making that decision. So please explain that to us.
I don't know that I had any facts on when she was alive. I cannot recall information that I had that allows me to recite for you what she was doing or what happening to her when she was alive.
Well, then, would you not agree that Dr. Garavaglia had considerably more information than you do in coming to her opinion that the manner of death is homicide by undetermined means?
Well, if she knew that information, I am aware of whatever she put into her report. And that's a fairly lengthy report if you consider all the anthropology and toxicology and microscopy and whatever else is in that report.
Yeah.
How come I don't see him talking on the live? I just see him in Melon.
What are you talking about?
Like on your channel right now, I don't see him at all talking.
Yeah, he is. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm watching it from now. I see it.
But I do not recall any information that she had that I did not have because I read her report.
Well, but
so if you tell me that she wrote something in that report that I did not tell you, then, well, I had that information and I would have read it. So I was aware of whatever she wrote in her report. I was totally familiar with.
What did she write in her report about the predication of this, the last time she was alive? What did she say in that report? Do you recall?
What she said?
What Dr. Garavaglia said?
No, I don't recall.
But it is common in forensic pathological reports to summarize relatively briefly the facts of the investigation, correct? It's not generally a practice to put in every single fact that you may have learned, but rather to summarize them.
Well,
Isn't that
some
correct?
people do and some people don't. Well, I don't, but many people do.
But to do a complete medical legal investigation, one must look to all possible sources of information. At the very least, read the police reports and statements of witnesses to determine exactly what led up to this child dying. That's essential, isn't it?
Yes, and therefore we do read police reports.
But you've just told us that you don't remember any of the facts of this case, or
No,
what
that I
happened to
didn't
her.
tell you. That is not. I don't think that's correct.
What do
I
you
thought
remember?
it necessary. I did not say that. I don't recall any of the facts. I do recall facts that I considered significant for me to formulate an opinion. And you asked me what I knew about Casey Anthony before she disappeared, before she was when she was last seen alive. And that I do not recall. All I recall is that she was a healthy young 3-year-old child.
Well, let me ask you this way, to be fair. What do you recall about the facts leading up to her disappearance or death that you considered significant in coming to the opinion you expressed on direct?
Not when she was before she was last seen alive.
Well, if you did not consider that fact significant, that's fine. But tell us what facts you considered significant about the time leading up to her death or disappearance that you felt were significant.
Well, I thought that there was a pool in the house in the yard, which I saw when I was there, which creates a possibility of drowning. I understand that for a month went by without informing the authorities that the child is missing.
Do you recall any other facts of significance?
No, I don't recall other facts. If you want to remind me of them, I'll be glad to listen.
I'm just inquiring of the ones that you felt were significant in rendering the opinion that you gave to Mr. Mason on direct, and those are the facts that you found
Well,
significant.
I thought that there was a fact that I understand that she was missing for a month.
Now, you also indicated in direct examination that the failure of Dr. Garavaglia to open the skull was a violation of protocol.
Correct.
What protocol is that?
The protocol is that we have here an autopsy on a child that has was the ultimate examination by a forensic pathologist in a case that had made national news. We open the head in.
Your objection, non-responsive. The question was what protocol was violated.
Doctor, do you understand the question?
Yes, I understand the question, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yeah, he's full of shit.
What protocol was violated?
The protocol is that the head is opened in any individual.
Okay, there is no protocol for that.
No.
I just got czarred by Bella Blonde. Thank you for the czar. She wants to know, so this case would now be double jeopardy. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Potato, do you have Dr. G's segment? That video?
Yeah.
I can't find it. Because I'm going to skip through this because we've already pretty much, he doesn't have anything.
No, he doesn't. I think that he was approaching this whole thing from the defense's perspective that it was an accidental drowning because he was asking about checking bones for drowning and stuff as well. So I don't think he really did like background checking of information.
The prosecutor said you don't just go off what you find on the body. It's the whole situation. Found in a bag in the woods, wasn't reported. That's all one thing, not just the body. And I felt like he didn't know anything. He didn't know who he talked to. He didn't know. I don't know. He was confusing me.
Yeah, he was me too. Like he lost me.
Yeah, he couldn't remember much.
Okay, so now we're going to watch Dr. G testify.
We know.
Have you found it?
Hold on.
I know I'm not crazy that it is. He does keep disappearing from chat. Other people are.
Yeah,
saying
it's just my screen.
Okay. I just thought I was losing my mind.
Well, I mean, that's still not ruled out.
I can't find the full video, but this is like a 7-minute video of her.
I just sent it.
Oh, you did?
It starts at 113. There's two of them.
You
Hold
have to
on.
say it's in the Google Docs.
Oh, no, wait. Hold on. Don't do that one yet.
Don't do that one?
No. There's two of them.
Oh, yeah, that's part 2 of 2.
Uh-huh. Oh, no. Hold on.
Yeah, because I think I put hers in there.
Yeah, it is in there. I'm just getting there. Because there's two of them. Because she's spread over two.
Yep.
Well, which one do I want to play?
The first one. Well, I think the first one was really short, and then there was a long.
Well, let's start watching this one and see where we're at. She's
What does it
looking
say,
at.
part 2 of 2 or part 1?
It's day 15.
Is it part 1 of 2?
Part 1 of 2. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the one that starts at. Hold on. Part 1 of 2 starts at 1:52:46.
I don't have part 1 of 2, though. I only have part 2 of 2.
Oh, hold on.
Sorry, guys. We'll get it straight.
They don't mind.
Excuse me.
What'd you eat for dinner, Jay?
I had some pulled pork and some baked beans.
Yeah.
And some coleslaw and a piece of cornbread.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good.
I know. I was starving too.
Okay.
Thank you. I got it. And what minute mark? I'm sorry.
1:52:46.
May I proceed?
You may proceed.
All right. Let me share this with you guys so you can see. I'll try not to make it disappear. It's when I click on a different tab, it goes away. I don't know why it does that, but it does. You should be able to see her now, though.
Yeah, I can see her.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
How are you presently employed?
I'm the chief medical examiner for Orange and Osceola counties.
And how long have you held that job?
I've been chief medical examiner since 2004.
Prior to being the chief medical examiner for District 9, where were you employed?
I was a deputy chief for a little less than a year, and then I was employed as a medical examiner in Bexar County, which is San Antonio, Texas, for 10 years, and prior to that, in the metropolitan Atlanta area, and I've been a medical examiner also in Jacksonville, Florida, and I trained as a medical examiner in Miami.
If you could just take us through your educational experience that led you to your work as a medical examiner.
Sure. Other consultants in also.
Just a moment.
Yes, Jay has 3.
We may start by showing the witness State's Exhibit CX in evidence. CX.
That would be CX.
I think you might have to. That doesn't really matter. Is one of the things that you examined when you arrived back the hair mat which was surrounding the skull?
Eventually, that hair mat came back to me. It was sent to the FBI, and I asked for that back.
All right.
And that was sent back to me, and I examined it then.
Is this a photograph that was taken before it was that you reviewed, or is this one that was taken after it came back?
Looks like there's bone. It's oftentimes when you show me one picture and it's not in context,
Sure.
It's difficult to say, but it looks like there's still bone attached. So,
Would this have been one of the photographs you reviewed?
oh, this would have been one that I reviewed, certainly.
All right. Let me go to photograph CY. Again, is this a photograph that you took or reviewed?
Yes.
At this time, I've moved into evidence State's Exhibit CX and CY.
What says the defense? Be receiving evidence. The state's numbered.
Let's start with formerly CX.
You know, I almost feel like we could watch the shorter video. Or no? Oh, here's the evidence.
I'd say this one shows evidence.
Be received in evidence as states numbered. Published.
Yes, please.
There's a lot of kids that die in pool drownings in Florida. Absolutely, in the summer, especially.
That's fine. You can publish now. Now, some of the items that were found with the remains, did you examine and separately photograph a number of those?
Yes.
I want to specifically ask you about a blanket. You recall there being a baby blanket that was found,
Yes.
right? And did you have that photographed?
Yes.
This time, could we show the witness DV? Do you recognize this as a photograph of the blanket taken at your direction?
That was either taken at my direction or by someone in my staff. It's been photographed. It was photographed several times.
All right. This time, you ought to move into evidence states exhibit DV.
Be received in evidence as states numbered.
Ew, that's why Roy thought it was gray.
This particular blanket, this is the condition that it came into your office. Is that correct?
Did you
Hasn't
see
been
the
cleaned or anything like that?
It was not cleaned or it was just kind of unfolded.
Are there certain portions of this blanket where you can detect some figures?
Yes.
Did you ask your staff to did they take a closer photograph to show those figures more clearly?
I might have even taken that photograph. I remember taking some, yes.
All right. If we could unpublish the jury, done, and show the witness DW. And you recognize this photograph, DW?
Yes.
And is this the closer photograph trying to show the figures on the blanket?
Yes, it is.
And this time you got to remove evidence states exhibit DW.
Any objections? Be received in evidence as states numbered.
May we publish?
Published.
Now I'm going to ask Mr. Perez to zoom in on this figure. When you viewed that figure, did it look familiar to you?
Yes.
Who's that?
Winnie the Pooh with Piglet on its back.
Thank you. We're all done with that photo. If we could show the witness DX. And is this a photograph of the other side of that blanket?
Yes, it is.
This time you ought to move into evidence states exhibit DX.
Oh, God. So was she wrapped
Received
in that?
evidence as states numbered.
Yep.
And
You can see the roots all grown in the bottoms and the corner. It was grown through even the bag.
Did that blanket have
After a long
plant material growing in it?
Yes.
And did you have that photograph as well to document the level of plant activity in the blanket?
Yes, I did.
And unpublished to the jury, and finally have DZ. Is that a photograph representing the amount of plant and root activity actually growing into the blanket?
Yes, it is.
They will
Look
move to
at
evidence
that.
states exhibit DZ.
What says the defense?
Well, it was 6 months. I mean, that's a long time. A half a year in Florida?
States numbered.
postmortem with all them.
I'm surprised there weren't bigger roots than that in Florida.
So just tell us what we're looking at here.
This is a close-up of the edge of the blanket, the one with the Winnie the Pooh with Piglet. And it shows vegetative material, roots growing on top of and through the blanket.
This makes me sick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Me too. I got a really
We
bad
could go
belly.
to
ache.
show the witness EB, please. EB. Do you
Having
recognize this
another
as an
hot
additional
flash.
photograph of other areas of root growth in the blanket?
Yes.
It's time to move to evidence states exhibit EB.
What says the defense?
Good Lord.
Be received in evidence as
I want them to
states
show
numbered.
Casey. I want to see what how she's
For the record,
reacting.
that's ED. I apologize. I said EB. I meant ED. Okay. And may we publish?
You may
Oh,
publish.
wrong picture. Oops.
Now, if we could have EB as in boy. You recognize this as another photograph of the root material.
Yes.
Say, move to evidence states exhibit EB.
And I just think she showed way more evidence than the other guy who was
Be received in evidence as states numbered.
And publish, please.
You may.
Again, we're looking at more root material in that blanket.
That is correct.
Unpublished to the jury. Unpublished. Good, I have State's Exhibit EE. You recognize EE?
Yes, I do.
This is a photograph of more root material growing into the blanket.
That's the same blanket with showing root material growing into it.
State removed evidence, State's Exhibit EE.
We received an evidence that states numbered.
All right, so I have a question because I live here, right? And I do a lot of planting and shit like that. Things grow really, really fast here, really fast. Like, I can have one leaf of like one little plant, and then not even 2 weeks later, I have like, it's big. It's like enough to plant in the ground. Like, things grow really fast. So what I would want to know is, looking at this root material, I would want to know from someone who studies plants, right? I don't know what that would be called, but someone who studies plants, to look at the environment that it was in, take in consideration the decomp, and tell me how long those roots have been in existence. Do you get what I'm saying?
I agree.
Because, like, 6 months is a long, long time. And, I mean, just for example, like, I just planted a whole bunch of shit at my house just a few months. You were here in January, 6 months ago. And I showed you how big they got.
Yeah, crazy.
It happens fast. But if she's underwater, I mean, that's why I'd want to know from, like, I don't know what you'd call that, what is it?
A botanist?
Yes,
yeah.
A botanist.
Like botanical science is what it would be.
Yes, to look at those roots, the size of them, and tell me the age of those roots.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know. I'm just saying the shit can happen fast.
Well, even
Dr. someone though, 'cause they had someone. I was watching earlier, and they had someone talking about the insects and stuff. So they might have had someone talking about the roots too.
I guess we'll have to look into that.
Because I'm sure that they said that the roots showed that the body was out there for like 6 months. So like from the time that she had gone missing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be curious to see that. Yeah.
Mm.
May I publish?
You may publish.
Was there also root material growing in the bag? That is the black plastic bag that was found with the remains.
There are 2 black plastic bags, and root material was growing through the holes in both those bags.
Let me show you.
So there was 2 plastic bags.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
So she was wrapped in her blanket, put in a laundry bag, and then placed in double bagged in garbage bags.
I think it was garbage bags, then the blanket garbage bags, then the laundry bag, because the laundry bag was on the outside.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question. If there was no sticky residue left on the tape, how were there mats of hair stuck to it?
It was knotted, and grown through plants.
So it was the roots, not the hair, that was holding it intact.
Right, it was the roots grew into where the hair was attached to the duct tape.
Right, so there was no sticky residue. There's no proof that her hair was stuck to that tape. There's no proof of that.
It was against the tape, so like if you look at those roots on the blanket, they look like hairs. So they'd all intertwined with the hair that had fallen down and matted. Like behind the
Right,
tape.
but it makes sense that roots would grow around hair. They grow around everything. I mean, they found the holes in the bags and crept through the holes. So like roots will attach and wrap around anything. They'll wrap around a twig. If you stick a twig in the ground next to, a plant it'll wrap around anything that it finds.
And I think that's what they were saying, because the tape was up in that area with the hair, and I think the roots grew through to hold it in that position, whether it was sticky or not anymore. So that's why her jaw was still attached, because the tape didn't move, because the roots had gone through it, because it was sitting still. It wasn't like it was moving around, and that's what held it in the position that it was in.
But if there was no sticky residue on it, it was not put there after the fact.
No,
there would still be stickiness.
Exactly.
And the hair had fused with the fibers of the tape as well. So all the fibers that like behind the glue were fused with the hair. That's why it wasn't coming off.
But why were they fused? Were they fused from the sticky residue or from
over time,
just being in the elements?
Yeah, just from being out there, because they couldn't pull them apart either. They had to cut it. They had to cut it off the skull.
Right. So, for all intents and purposes, that piece of duct tape could have been in one of those garbage bags already before she was even placed in it, and it could have wound up on her skull, and roots grew through it and attached to her.
I think it's the way that it was sat, though.
Yeah, it was
Like
from
it was
ear to ear.
sat across the front of her face. Like none of it went around the back or anything, and it was 3 layers of tape as well, all sat on the front, attached to her on either side.
Right on the autopsy, there is duct tape over the lower facial region still attached to head hair. The duct tape was clearly placed prior to decomposition, keeping the mandible in place.
But it wasn't, if the roots weren't there, that mandible would not have been kept in place. Okay, so it wasn't the hair, because you guys just said there's no sticky residue.
No, I think
so. They said that when the skull started to decompose, it was already outside the bag. So, and they knew that because they said that the body wasn't in the bag for very long, because like her torso, her vertebra, and her pelvis were all together in one place, and the same with the skull. And the way that the skull was sitting, the mandible couldn't move, and then all the roots and things grew through it as well. So it wouldn't have fallen apart even if there wasn't any.
And that kind of coincides with Roy, because if he saw just a skull laying there, it wasn't in a bag, because an animal probably drug her out of the bag.
Yep.
Yeah.
Animals dug into that bag and got her out and drug her over, and that's why her torso and her skull, all that was in one area, because they moved her and then, did what they do. So Roy saying, it wasn't in the bag, that makes sense. It doesn't seem like she would remain in the bag for very long.
No, and it did say animals chewed on her bones.
But where was the blanket and the bag? See, that's what
been pulled out as well.
This is what I'm not. Is there a diagram like where her skull was, where the other bones were, where these bones were, where the blanket was, where the garbage bags? Is there like a diagram of where they found everything? Have we ever seen that?
Like that.
See, I would like to see the distance.
Yeah.
I mean, we never saw that with Brian Laundrie either.
Right.
I mean, they did have pictures of like the bag and stuff, but they didn't show.
I mean, they didn't have like pictures with evidence markers or anything like that.
They did, but not of like the whole area, so you couldn't see how far things were from each other.
I promise you they exist, so maybe a Freedom of Information Act would get that, because I guarantee you it exists. They had to have. I mean, they had to mark everything they found.
Yeah.
We should be able to get that, being that, it's not an open investigation to them.
Yeah.
Does this photograph demonstrate?
Sorry.
The growing actually through the holes in the black plastic bag?
Yes.
This time, state removed evidence, states exhibit EI.
We received an evidence the state's numbered.
No, it wasn't over her nose. It was just over the mouth part, Muffin.
Was there also a canvas laundry bag that was also found with the remains that you saw?
Yes, there was.
And were there roots growing within that item as well?
The canvas laundry bag was canvas on the outside and some type of kind of shiny vinyl type material on the inside, and it appears that the roots were just growing.
So it was lined, and that's the liner that he saw.
Yeah.
So was it like inside out?
It says on here that I just Googled, the blanket was inside the bag when it was found.
So the animals literally like pulled her. Oh, God.
Wow.
I know, it's horrible.
Poor baby. She deserves so much better. Makes me sick.
Top of and intricately applied to the canvas part of that bag.
If we may show the witness EN. And do you recognize that as a representative photograph showing the roots growing into the canvas bag?
Yes.
This time I move into evidence states exhibit EN.
Be received and states numbered.
May I publish?
You may publish.
Would it be fair to say that plant roots were growing in and around virtually everything that was retrieved from this scene, that is the immediate area of the skull?
No, I don't think we saw any roots in the shorts.
Okay.
There were certainly roots in bones, but that was further out. Roots through the bag, and then the shirt was completely disintegrated, so it's difficult to say. But certainly the blanket, the 2 plastic bags, and the canvas bag.
And you said the shirt was disintegrated. All that was left was the lettering and a collar?
The lettering and the stitching along the hems and with the tag.
In order to assist, and I'll just unpublish that, in order to assist in identifying the victim in this case, well, at the time that the bones were first found, how did you go about trying to identify who this child was?
Well, we thought the best identification was going to be through DNA. It's difficult to identify a child because oftentimes we'll use teeth or a dental comparison. That was be difficult with this child because she's so young. And so we were hoping that we were going to get nuclear DNA, and then we knew that there would probably be at least mitochondrial DNA. So we thought the best way to go would be with the DNA.
And did your office send a bone off to the FBI laboratory for purposes of DNA identification?
Yes, we did.
Let me show the witness states exhibit EO for identification.
Thanks for saying that, Potato. Not guilty
recognize
doesn't
this as
mean
a
she didn't
photograph
do
of
it.
the
Just
bone
means
upon its
that the
return
jury didn't have enough,
from the DNA evaluation.
or they didn't
Yes.
prove enough reasonable doubt.
Move into evidence states exhibit EO.
Or without reasonable doubt, my bad.
It doesn't mean innocent.
Right, it doesn't mean innocent.
What
Thank
says
you.
the
Just read her comment in
Received
chat.
and states numbered.
The other thing too, did you see when they showed her whole skeleton
Doctor,
how
the
it was brown? But he said the
Wait, what'd
skull-
you say?
Did you see how when they said, like, when they showed the picture of her whole skeleton, it's all brown?
Uh-huh.
But he said, but they're saying the skull that was found is white. And like,
Mhm.
even if you look on the internet, you see images like it looks white, but in the whole full autopsy pictures, it's all like a brown color.
Could they have used some kind of chemical on it, maybe?
I don't know. I was just wondering why that would be.
I thought the same though, because when I saw that picture, I wasn't sure if it was actually her.
Yeah, because I was just
skeleton.
looking up images and I was like, they're all the pictures look like white in the back, but then
I just thought it was sepia tone.
Yeah. They could have used something on it.
I mean, I don't know. I did notice it was different color. I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't really think much of it.
Yeah,
Because I haven't really looked at a lot of the crime scene photos in this case yet.
I am right now.
There's lots of them.
There is.
Yes, they did show her skeleton, Bella. Gator, if you want to put the link that you're looking at, if everybody wants to look at those pictures, looking ass. Well, Cronk even said, I wasn't sure if it was like a prop. Because, like prop skulls look really white.
Yeah, because they're like plastic.
Yeah, plastic.
Same with like Halloween skeleton skulls.
Yeah, kind of like Elon Musk. Plastic.
Made me choke.
Were you taking a drink, Potato?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Oh, let's get back to Dr. G.
Potato.
Dr. G spot.
Portion that's missing
Oh
from
my
this
God.
bone, is that
No.
you're familiar with in determining identification of the bone?
Yes, so you have to
I'm
remove
waking
a piece
up.
of the bone to test. They removed a piece of that right tibia.
Now, did you receive results from the FBI DNA laboratory as to the identification of the remains?
Yes,
And did that laboratory identify the remains as that is Kaylee Marie Anthony?
yes, they did.
Now, as a medical examiner, is it your job to determine two things, one called cause of death and one called manner of death?
Yes, it's the fundamental. It's fundamental to my job, and that's basically why we exist as an office.
Is manner of
Wait.
death?
Hey, poopy ass, are you like misfiring texts again? Because I saw you accidentally put your sweet nothings to whoever it is you're texting in the chat earlier. So I just wanted to make sure you were mindful that you weren't putting any more sweet nothings in the chat instead of texting them.
What did he say?
Love you, Skulls.
Oh,
What did it
no.
say?
Jay might not always pay attention, but she paid attention that time. Oh, he said, oh, you're going to have to take me there. Oh, I hope your headache feels better or something. He was sending some stuff. And then he said, oops.
Dreamland.
And then he said, oops. Yeah. He's talking to his AI girlfriend.
Plastic.
Oh my gosh. Elvis said, my ex looked a lot like Casey. We went to Disney World after she was released. We got stopped 5 times to check our IDs.
Oh my gosh.
Yikes. Does she still look like Casey?
Is that why they're an ex?
Good question, Heather.
Death determination a purely medical or scientific determination?
Yes, the cause?
Manner of death.
The manner of death, it's based on scientific principles and ultimately gathering all the information you can about a case, all the circumstances of the case, all the history of the case, any medical history, knowing what the body showed, knowing all your ancillary tests. It's to take all of those things into consideration and any type of scientific information and to come up with an opinion.
Hi, Valerie. How are you? Valerie Hamilton Beach. They said yes, that's why she's an ex,
Okay,
and
ladies
yes, she
gentlemen,
still
the
looks
jury,
like
we're
her.
going to recess now for lunch. We ask you not to discuss this case among yourselves nor with anyone else. Any additional instructions on behalf of the state or the defense?
Okay, so this is going to take us into part 2, right? David Lohr. His music's kind of cool.
She didn't really look like she was crying that much. I mean, I'm sitting here with goosebumps listening to this.
They didn't show
not
her
even
that
my
much.
child.
I wish they would have showed her more.
Like,
I
I
know.
would have been unconsolable if I seen them pieces of my baby's body, bones all over. I don't care how long. I would have been like non-recognizable. It just
With roots and everything. I mean, just the thought alone.
yes.
I can handle a lot of stuff, but even that, I don't even have words.
Like Jay gets choked up and cries, and it's not even her relative. But imagine it being your child, and you just a few little sniffles here and there. I would be unconsolable.
Yeah, I don't know how she holds it together, but
They would have to like stop court and be like, "You need to calm the F down, woman."
I think
I don't know, man. I mean, you have no idea like what you would feel
Did
like.
your father-
in that situation, like your adrenaline might just take over. You know?
But also, her kid was missing, and she knew that she was dead, and she was out partying. So,
Well, no, I'm not talking about the
That says a
partying
lot.
part. I'm talking about like her behavior in court. Like
Yes,
this
thank
is
you.
your life on the line. Like you better act how your lawyer tells you to act. Like at that point, you're under the thumb of your lawyer.
You would think
You
your
can't
lawyer
fake
would
emotion.
show emotion for the jury.
But then faking emotion is quite hard to do as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Some
think she
anything.
was damned if she did and damned if she didn't. Really.
I mean, hearing your baby was dragged out of a bag by animals, and there's evidence of her bones being chewed on. Like, how?
I
do
don't
you
know,
not
man. I
see-
can't even imagine.
No.
I think I emotionally shut myself off from these kinds of cases because I just can't. Like, I can't even go there. I look at Winnie the Pooh and I'm just like, I think I just shut it off because it's too much. It's unfathomable. It's unfathomable.
I usually do, but this case is really getting to me for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh, well, it's horrible. And you know why, Heather? Because there's no answers.
Yeah, that's probably it.
There's no
There's no
answers. And
justice.
yeah, and the more we watch, the more questions we have and the less answers we have.
When Dr. G retired, when she wrote her big thing, she said she will take Kaylee Anthony with her forever. This case.
How can you not?
Yeah, exactly.
What a sentimental statement.
It is.
Shay
Come
doesn't
on.
believe her.
The lady's a freaking forensic pathologist. A body is a body to her. I'm not buying her. I'm not. If anybody's going to be stone cold, it's going to be these medical examiners. Look at Spitz. That dude probably plays with body parts in private.
That's creepy.
They're fascinated by them. Come on, they're fascinated by the human body. You know, like, where is it a borderline where, you know, we look at these pathologists and go, okay, maybe they go a little too far. I mean, he really liked that skull. When he brought that skull out and plopped it down, it was like it was a pen. You know, it was like, no, dude, this is a fucking this is a real human skull you're setting down. Like, he just plopped it down like it was a fucking candle he was about to light. I mean,
It's like those damn show and tell back in elementary school. Guys, look what I have.
they're so desensitized. It's just a body part to them. It's so crazy.
So true.
But it's so weird. I can't imagine being in that state of mind where our bodies are just, you know, like they scientifically look at your body. Like when you look at your body, they think of it scientifically. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
How he just got that out of his bag. A skull. If I was walking in a courtroom with a skull in a bag, I'd be like holding it out to this. I'd be like, it's nothing, you know? It's just crazy. All right, so I've got a little bonus video before we finish off Dr. B or G to just break the break the monotony of Dr. G. I have Roy Cronk's son getting drilled by Jose. Ready? Now, mind you, the defense wanted the jury to think, maybe this guy did do something.
Did your father state to you that he knew something about this case?
Yes, sir, it did. At the time, though, I was not aware that it was about the case.
Oh, wait, hold on. He talks way fast.
I was gonna say,
Slow down,
Slow
Brandon.
down.
Slow down, Brandon. He looks like his dad. Holy smokes. Holy.
He does more.
Did
so
your
now.
father
Does he?
Yeah.
state to you that he knew something about this case?
Yes, sir, it did. At the time, though, I was not aware that it was about the case.
Yes or no?
Sustain the question, Counselor.
Yes, sir.
What did he tell you he knew?
He told me that he knew where the remains were.
And when did he tell you this?
This was in November 2008.
How do you know it was in November 2008?
It was the time before December 11th when the epiphany that he mentioned the remains, but he never named the name to go with it. At the time, I thought it was far-fetched. So December 11th, when he called and told me that what they were mentioning on the news was him, that's when I had an inkling. And I immediately asked him, why didn't he go get it before? Why did he wait this long?
And what did he say?
He didn't have an answer.
Did he have make any other statements about this case?
No, sir.
Did your father ever mention that he had found Kaylee's skull?
Yes, sir, he did.
Okay. And was this prior to December 11th?
Yes, sir.
And how are you so sure that it happened in November?
Well, against her, the only significant event I would have to say that was in November was Thanksgiving. Prior to that, I had told my wife and I told my mother as well.
Do you hold any ill will against your father?
No, sir.
Did you at that time?
No, sir.
You didn't remember that it was in November of 2008 until you were reminded of that fact by your mother and your wife, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's not something that you yourself have an independent recollection of.
Until December 11th.
Until December 11th?
Yes, ma'am.
That's when you realized you had a conversation with your father in November?
I had knowledge of it, but I disacknowledged the fact that he ever said it. I thought it was far-fetched. The conversation about the skull was in November. It wasn't until December 11th that it became relevant. At the time, he told me that he urinated in the ditch, went out and found the remains of this little girl. And when I had said little girl, it's the little girl everyone's been looking for. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So Roy Cronk informed you of that on December 11th.
No, ma'am. He informed me that in November.
Mr. Cronk also told you that he was going to be on television the next day, correct?
No, ma'am. He told me the day of that he was going to be on television.
And did you see him on television shortly after the conversation?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You realize that your father did not appear on television until December 19th of 2008.
Yes, ma'am.
And this conversation that you had with him was perhaps not the day before, but shortly before that, correct?
It was that day, ma'am. Before that, he wanted to keep a certain amount of anonymity.
Did your father tell you that he had taken this skull and had it at his home or in his car, or had done anything else to it in November of 2008, as you claim?
No, ma'am. The only thing he had said is that, Roger.
He didn't tell you that he had taken this skull from some sort of scene,
No,
correct?
ma'am.
So what do you think of him?
He's an odd duck.
Well, but do you? I mean, he's kind of talking. He doesn't really recall. So, like, the Thanksgiving thing came from his mom and his wife.
Yeah, it wasn't him.
Now,
did they ever have phone records proving or anything?
Well, I don't think they
proving
looked
this
that
call?
deep into it. I don't think they I don't think the prosecution or the investigators suspected Roy.
No, they just used him for reasonable
But what's
doubt.
interesting is what Roy said. Okay, Roy said, oh, if I get that reward, I want to keep it on the DL. I don't want my ex-wife to get shit. Now, mind you, yes, they did have beef with Roy. His son hadn't seen him in 8 years.
Ooh.
Yeah, he doesn't even have his last name.
He doesn't have his last name. You're correct. And Roy made that comment about his ex-wife getting any money.
If you haven't seen your son in 8 years, why would you call them randomly out of the blue and be like, hey, listen, I found a skeleton?
Yeah, I don't know how often they talked, but Roy testified at a point in his testimony, and he said that he told his son, you'll see me on the news, and it'll be the first time you see me in 8 years. So that's how I know it had been 8 years since he saw his kid. And then he made the comment about the ex-wife getting any of the reward money. So I'm guessing that they were probably estranged a bit, being that, Brandon doesn't have his name and lived with his mom and yada, yada, yada. So I don't know how credible I think Brandon is. And
Yeah,
he
because-
sounds rehearsed.
If he doesn't, right, and if he didn't want his ex-wife to know because he didn't want her to get the money, why would you tell your son who's going to tell his mom?
Exactly.
That's what I don't get.
I feel like it's nothing but probably drama, like ex-baby mama, ex-wife drama. I just feel like they probably go tit for tat.
I don't think he told him anything.
Cronk also said that his son was mistaken in that phone call as well, but he hadn't actually said that stuff.
Well, he said he was mistaken that he did tell him that, but it was after December 11th.
Yeah, so it wasn't November.
But his
Yeah.
son just basically
Brandon
said, well, I saw him on TV a couple days after he told me that. And she's like, well, he wasn't on TV till December 19th.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think he told him prior.
Not credible.
Mm-mm.
Not credible, IMO.
Nope.
All right, so are you guys down for more, or should we break this up? Because my back's kind of hurting, to be honest with you.
I just wanted to finish Dr. G. How much
Let me
time?
check.
I think everyone was enthralled with that. You need one of them vibrating things, Jay, for your back.
I just got this thingy, man. I thought it would help.
I have a vibrating heating pad for my back, and it's the best thing ever.
Well, where the heck did it go? I lost it again. Is it day 15, part 1? Or I mean part 2?
Part 2.
That's what I meant. I found it. Everyone chill. Is anyone even here watching anymore?
Yeah, they're 102.
Oh, wow. Hi, guys. Hey, guys.
Yeah, it's been holding us the whole time. No one is left. They all want to watch.
All right. We will keep going.
There can't be much left of it because there's only like 33 minutes of it anyway.
30. There's about
33 minutes.
Oh, there's about let's see. Oh yeah, there's not much. You're right. It's shot.
It's shot.
It's shot. Okay, here we go.
It's Zed.
It's the state's numbered.
It's 4 o'clock there in South Africa. Wow.
And ask you if by the markings that should be the bag containing the clothing, the letters, and the stitching.
Do they get out the clothing?
And those are things that were brought in with the body. Is that correct?
That is correct.
State removing evidence, State's Exhibit KT.
That's correct. I think they show images.
Yeah, the clothing was really like rotted and fallen apart. There wasn't much of the t-shirt.
There's like just the neck line of
evidence of state.
Why were the shorts totally intact?
They were torn and stuff as well. I guess they were probably thicker material.
They're really thick, yeah.
Thicker than canvas?
Yeah, they're thick.
Yeah.
They're puffy.
And
cloth.
vinyl?
Yeah, they're thick.
Aw, thanks, Bella Blonde.
The doctor opened this bag to see her markings. That it is agreed that this is
Valerie Hamilton Beach is here from Vegas. Heathen with the wax melts and the gel pens is in the house. Midday in Australia.
Oh wow.
They're really in the future.
Mm-hmm.
all right. Dr. Nellett, we've got the housekeeping out of the way. When we broke, we were discussing the concepts of cause and manner of death, and I believe you were explaining to the jury what manner of death means. Could you explain that, please?
The manner of death. The manner is the classification of death based on all of the information that is available to us, both scientific information, both scene information, both historic information, anything that will help us classify that death as to accident, natural, homicide, suicide, or undetermined.
And in assessing all that thing, the medical evidence, the scientific evidence, and the scene evidence, do you bring to bear your experience in forensic pathology?
Absolutely.
In this particular case, based upon everything that you have seen, photographs, the skeleton itself, do you have an opinion as to the manner of death in this case?
Yes.
What is that opinion?
Homicide.
What do you base that on?
It's based on 3 main items. First, we know from observational studies, from experience, that it is a red flag that when a child is not reported immediately to authorities, either with an injury.
Okay, this part is really dumb to me because basically she had nothing. Oh my God, look at that. Look at that.
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's creepy.
But like all this stuff is like common sense. Like we know that a 3-year-old isn't going to put herself in a bag and put herself out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she named. Yeah, but she labeled it a homicide because what else is she going to label it?
Well, the other guy said nothing. He couldn't come, and he didn't even say undetermined. He just said
Well, yeah, but he doesn't buy the whole duct tape thing, but she does. So what else would it be? Kaylee didn't put her duct tape over her own mouth. So it's like this right here to me is just like filler. I don't know. I didn't learn shit from this. Like, I knew this. Like, we're armchair detectives. We know this shit.
I think she's just
tell me about the
jury, though.
Tell me about the pathology.
For foul play.
I know. I'm just being a bitch, Potato.
This cell from history was not reported for a long time. The other thing that makes it a homicide is that the body was hidden.
So let me have a little fun, would you please?
A child's body is thrown out, hidden in a field. We know that is one of the things we look for when we are looking for a homicide. Also, it's often found that these bodies are in, not always, but closed containers, a suitcase or a plastic bag like this child was. That, again, is from our experience from observational systematic studies, a red flag for homicide. And the last, besides the delay, besides the being found in a field decomposed, would be the duct tape, somewhere located on the lower half of this face. There is no child that should have duct tape on its face when it dies. There is no reason to put duct tape on the face after they die. Based on our experience, we've seen that in cases of homicide.
Now, how does the concept of cause of death differ from the concept of manner of death?
Well, the cause of death is the injury or the disease that initiates the chain of events that ultimately results in the child dying. Or the
True,
person
Muffin.
So the cause is the specific injury or disease that ultimately causes the death.
In this case, based on the skeletal condition of the remains, can you render a medical conclusion on the cause of death?
The cause of death, what I put was homicide of undetermined means. I believe we can reliably say it's a homicide, but I don't know the means for which that homicide occurred.
Were there any objects found with the body that would have been capable of causing death?
Well, the only possible objects with the body, although I don't know if they cause death, and I'm not even speculating whether they cause death, would be duct tape. If that duct tape was over the mouth and nose, that's a possibility. Suffocation with a plastic bag would have been the only other thing I would have seen there.
Hey, Diva Drawl.
You are aware, are you not, of the evidence of chloroform being found during certain portions of the investigation of the case?
I was made aware of that, yes.
Could a...
John McSmith. This woman is a ditz. Like, she's talking to third graders. Don't like it. Always love a John McSmith comment. And yes, poopy ass, her evaluation of homicide is purely speculatory in nature. She can't possibly know that because she found nothing.
But she's saying if it was an accident, though, then she wouldn't have had tape or anything on her. Like, if a child dies in an accident, you don't think to put them in
can put
bags
tape
and-
over someone's mouth and not kill him.
But you call 911.
Yeah, but if it was an accident, like,
Yeah,
exactly.
like what if
it
she
doesn't
was,
matter
what if
how
she was
long.
crying and Casey flipped out and was like, "Ah, just shut up," and put tape on her mouth? That doesn't mean she's killing her. So tape doesn't necessarily mean homicide.
Well, I hope no one's
If she-
over their kid's mouth.
Yeah, if she's crying and puts tape on her mouth and she dies, then that is homicide.
But the tape wouldn't be what kills her if it's not over her nose.
But we don't know it wasn't over her nose.
Dr.
And we
G
don't know
said
if
it
she
wasn't
was
over her nose.
stuffy, if she had a stuffy nose or had trouble breathing out
Your
of her
Dr.
nose.
G testified it was not over her nose.
They
Because
don't
she went in a bag as well, though. She was put in a plastic bag. She could not breathe in there.
2 bags and a laundry bag. So she was triple bagged.
With vinyl on the inside, too.
This
And
kid
like she says, like, if it was an accident, like, it doesn't matter how long a child's, like, died for. Like, people still call 911. Even when it's really obvious that they're
Okay,
not.
I'm not saying
coming
anybody
back.
in this case is innocent. I'm just saying, like, I'm just asking, just questions that pop in my head when I hear these things. Like, explain it.
Yeah, it's good for discussion.
I mean, some of it you can't explain, but some of it you can. But
this is why she was acquitted. There was that reasonable doubt with every single person that testified.
There was too many.
Yeah.
There was too much.
Yep.
I don't think Dr. G said it was over her nose. I think she said it was not.
He just said no one should have duct tape. No child should have duct tape over their nose and mouth.
In the autopsy report, she just said lower facial.
She didn't say nose.
Lower facial region.
If she said that, it wasn't. She did not testify to that before.
Mm-hmm.
Look at John. John with the black eye is spouting off in chat, trying to minimize that tape is evil doing by Baez.
Child exposed to a sufficient amount of chloroform die as a result.
Absolutely.
But at this point, based upon the medical evidence, can you tell what caused her death?
No, I believe we have enough evidence, and I believe it's scientifically defensible to say it's a homicide, but I do not believe we have enough scientific to say the means of how that homicide occurred.
Now, are there certain things that you can exclude? In other words, was there any trauma to the body that would
the trauma is their body is very decomposed. All I have is bones. So unless that trauma hurt the bones,
why is she so defensive? Like, why does she got
cases where
why is she so defensive about it? If she's that confident in her findings, why the defensiveness, Dr. G? Just saying.
There's been blunt trauma of the abdomen, and I can't say from the skeleton. So I can't rule out really any trauma because sometimes even a gunshot wound would go through, and not touch the bone. So it's very difficult when the body is that decomposed to say why they died.
Now, in this case, was there any injury to the bones that would indicate trauma involving the bone?
There is no ante-mortem injury to the bones that would indicate the causes.
And were you made aware of any illness?
What's ante-mortem? What is that?
I was just wondering that.
Death.
It's
Before
like,
death.
What is it?
Before death. Postmortem's after death.
Bones.
So ante-mortem is before you die?
No, it's after.
Post-mortem is after.
Post-mortem's after, ante-mortem's before you die.
Yes, and she said there was no showing that there was no broken bones or injuries.
All right, Dr. Melmo seems to think that she's not defensive, that it was just because I had her sped up. So we're putting her normal. Because sorry, Dr. Melmo, she's defensive, and I don't even like the look on her face. I don't like the faces she gives.
You just don't like her.
I don't. This lady rubs me the wrong way. She rubs me the wrong. At least with Spitz, what you see is what you get. The dude is just in love with skulls. This lady, she tries to play like she's not, but she's in love with skulls. Yes.
Everyone's in love with skulls.
Oh my God, John, Tammy Moorer? That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. You guys remember the case of Heather Elvis?
Didn't we talk about that recently?
It was a while ago.
Oh.
Look at Laura W. is rolling her eyes. She's like, Jay, why you be hating on Dr. G?
She's awfully feisty.
We are going to watch her in regular speed. It's going to be on normal since Melmo thinks that her abrupt defensiveness was due to the 1.25 times speed.
I'm going to calm Dr. G down.
Yes. Dr. M.
Calm down, Dr. G.
Yeah, Dr. G, Dr. M, both of you. Simmer down.
What caused her death?
No, I believe we have enough evidence, and I believe it's scientifically defensible to say it's a homicide, but I do not believe we have enough scientific information to say the means of how that homicide occurred.
Now, are there certain things that you can exclude? In other words, was there any trauma to the body that would
the trauma is their body is very decomposed. All I have is bones. So unless that trauma hurt the bones, I can't say. I've had other cases where there's been blunt trauma of the abdomen, and I can't say from the skeleton. So I can't rule out really any trauma because sometimes even a gunshot wound would go through, and not touch the bone.
She even cuts 'em off.
It's very difficult when the body is that decomposed to say why they died.
She was a little less defensive, slowed down. So I will give that to Dr. Melmo. But still, the facial expressions, I can't.
She still has a bit of an attitude.
She
does.
You know why? Because she's a TV star. She's too big for her britches. And
That's a good look right now.
I know, I did that on purpose. All right. And that color, just no. Just no.
The baby pink green.
I mean, come on.
Let's all say Jay is not a fan of Dr. G.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, who wears that color green when you're talking about decomp and dead bodies?
Ooh.
Somebody that loves dead bodies.
She's fascinating. See,
Yeah.
she's worse than Spitz.
No, in this case, was there
I'm
any
just kidding.
Injury to the bones that would indicate trauma involving the bone?
There is no ante-mortem injury to the bones that would indicate.
Watching her slow is like
Were
annoying
you made
now.
aware of any
Irritating you.
I gotta speed her up.
I can see
illnesses
that.
that the child suffered that could have caused death, anything of that
I
sort?
specifically asked for any history of illness or problems with this child, and I was told there were none.
No further questions. Thank you, Doctor.
Cross-examination?
Oh Lord, not him again.
Come on, Cheney.
It's your man.
Look at that mop he's got on top of his head.
He's like, are you okay?
You live in the Orlando area. Don't tell me where, but in the Orlando area.
Oh my God! And the shit he says is so
And
dumb.
for the
He's
period
like,
of time,
you live in the Orlando area. Oh, don't tell me where, but in the Orlando area.
Like she's going to list off her damn address for everyone.
Yeah, I know.
Why does it keep showing this girl? Like, what is happening here?
Oh man. Get her off my camera.
I don't know what's worse, this or that. Oh man. All right, what was I doing?
Of about 4 months prior to these remains being found, you were aware of all of the media attention surrounding this case, weren't you?
I was aware that this was a big case. I
Oh my God.
do not watch the news, and I listen to NPR, so I don't think I was as aware as most people.
Certainly, if you were wise enough to not necessarily rely on the news, you were aware that there was, in fact, a circus-like atmosphere around the Anthony home. Yes?
I don't know that.
Well, you knew it was, a lot of speculation, a lot of news about this case for months. Yes?
I did know that there was a lot of speculation about this case.
And you knew that if, unfortunately, remains were found of this child, that your office would be most likely involved.
No, I was hoping it was Lake County,
You were hoping it was Lake County, push it off to the west. Okay.
different jurisdiction.
Or so anywhere other than the Knights.
That's what I would have liked.
But in fact,
Town, dude.
You were called, and you came back from wherever other business you were on to handle this case.
That's true.
And amongst the various things that you had known prior was news or references, as Mr. Ashton just referred to, regarding the potential of chloroform being involved in this case.
I was told that by investigations at the time we got the body.
You weren't told that the chloroform related to decomposition, but just that there was chloroform involved.
That there was a question of chloroform.
So you then reasoned that perhaps chloroform may have been used, in fact, to contribute to the cause of death of this child.
I think that would be one of the possibilities that we would have to examine.
So one of the things that you did in order to examine that possibility was to bring in an expert. Yes?
I brought in a toxicologist that I knew had dealt with toxicology of bones, which is not a common thing.
And that toxicologist was a PhD, Dr. Bruce Goldberger from the University of Florida.
It was.
And you sent to him a piece of bone that had been resected from the humerus, was it?
The femur.
Pardon?
The left femur.
Left femur. We had a picture of it a while ago.
No, that was the tibia taken for the DNA. The
Well,
picture I saw.
Which part was sent to Dr. Goldberger so he could test for the presence of chloroform?
The piece of the left femur.
And as a toxicologist, the specific request was to look for chloroform and other what you call volatile chemicals. Is that right?
That is correct.
Meaning you were looking for chloroform and some form of poison.
Volatiles would have been alcohol, isopropanol.
Any kind of chemical that might have contributed to the cause of this child's death.
Yes.
And Dr. Goldberger, pursuant to your directions, submitted these samples to a myriad of toxicological examination tests, didn't he?
Not really a myriad. He only did checked for volatiles and several other tests. It was very limited what he can do with bone. But
whatever tests were available that could be done, were done.
He tried.
And when they were done, the results were negative as to each and every one.
That is correct.
Now, in connection with this whole process, were you present when Dr. Werner Spitz came as a defense expert to want to observe the process?
Couldn't they check her hair like they do for drugs?
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, Dr. G talks about that.
Oh, Lord. Of course.
Just saying.
I didn't realize they found a pull-up with her as well. A diaper or pull-up.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I'm reading through the autopsy report briefly.
I just have to address a couple things here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first of all, Jay, take a Motrin. I might take a couple. And then Cheryl said, but we love Dog, and he has a TV show, things that make you go, But I don't compare Dog the Bounty Hunter and Dr. G, a county paid medical examiner, to be the same type of thing. Like,
Dog isn't an expert.
Right, like that's his show. Like his bounty hunting is his show. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all he does. But she, being a county, state paid worker, and having a TV show and testifying in a case, I don't know. To me, I don't know.
In a high profile case.
A high profile case, yeah. I don't know. I just think there's things that I don't know. You're not finding chloroform in hair?
It's got a really short life. That's what Dr. G was talking about, that like drugs and stuff wouldn't have lasted in her hair.
I just don't think she brings a whole lot to the table in this testimony, to be honest. But
Chloroform dissipates really quickly.
Yeah.
So we were talking the other day because she said she was potty trained and was wearing panties, remember? But Heather, you just said she did have a diaper?
Yep, it says right in the autopsy report, diaper/pull-up type material. And
yeah,
they talk
because
about
she
it.
probably, like I said, woke up and hadn't been changed yet.
Yeah.
So she was probably still in her pull-up from the nighttime, and that's probably when it happened. I still think she drowned in the pool.
Or she never woke up from her sleeping with the pull-up?
Yeah, I don't know. I think she wore him to bed. I don't know. I think she drowned in that pool. I don't think anything else happened to her. I just don't think, I mean, they found no trace of any drugs in the bone marrow or whatever.
If there wasn't any bone marrow left to...
Well, whatever they tested, whatever the specialist tested in the bones, like...
There was nothing. It says right in the autopsy report, no drugs were found.
Mm-hmm.
But then Dr. G also talks about that as well.
I'm sure she does.
It wouldn't be there after that one. I'm not saying anything.
I mean, but you guys have to remember, though, too, that I know you guys like her and everything, but she is the Orange County ME.
Right, so she has...
They're all on the same payroll, right? The prosecutors, the judges.
She has to do her job properly as well, though.
I know, but they're all... I mean, look at public defenders. They're all on the same payroll.
And I think especially with her having a TV show, like she's in the spotlight. So she's going to have to do her job properly.
Yeah, I guess. She sure didn't take to Werner Spitz's criticism very well.
I would have been pissed too if somebody was not.
Why? If you're confident in what you do, you have no reason to be pissed.
But he said that she'd done a shoddy autopsy.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he did. Is he not entitled to his opinion?
Well, and she's entitled to hers as well.
He didn't ask for hers.
Her autopsy report is 36 pages long. That's not, I don't know. I didn't know to be fair, I had no clue she had a TV show. I just thought she was the
Oh my
Emmy.
God,
So I'm
I
unbiased.
just spit coke everywhere. When you said I had no idea she had a TV show, dead.
Some people don't know that.
I am dead.
Not everyone's freaky like us and watches.
Dude, all you gotta do is like look up Casey Anthony and her show comes up. It's freaking like A&E or some shit.
Oh, I ignored all that. If it's not coming from the trial, I'm usually not paying attention to others'
I'm
opinions
gonna
like
admit,
that.
I'm just not a fan of her. I'm just not. I mean, it's fine. I mean, if she was just a regular old medical examiner testifying, but everyone makes such a big deal about her. I think that's what makes me not like her even more.
Does she still have a show? Not
I
that
have no
girl
idea.
again.
No, she doesn't.
Oh.
It was like 2004 that she had her show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I didn't pay attention.
Dr. Melmo said maybe it was one of those pull-ups for the pool.
Oh, the swimmers.
The little swimmers.
Yeah.
Popular then though.
What?
What year did swimmers come out? Because they haven't.
Yeah,
been...
all my kids had them, and they were born in the 90s.
Yeah, but would you put shorts over?
No, I don't
wet
think they put little
swimmers?
swimmers on her.
And
It
if
didn't
she
look like she was wearing little swim. I mean, if she wore undies during the day, why would they put a little swimmer on her?
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, it could be, but I honestly think that she went to sleep, got up, Casey was sleeping, no one was watching her, something happened. I don't know if she drowned. I don't know what happened, but I think she was still in her pull-up from the night, but she was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, so I don't know. I picture them to be the types to put her in jammies every night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that little girl sleeping in her clothes.
Unless
Yeah.
it was really hot that night and it's Florida. I mean, they would be prepared for that, so never mind.
Yeah, I just see, like, especially Cindy being very, jammies, read a book. Like, I can just see her having, like, a routine at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Take a bath, put your jammies on.
Yep, and probably that girl's
Yeah.
on the screen again.
I know. She
Yeah, I
looks
know,
like she's in the middle of an exorcism or something.
I know, like, who's pulling her hair? What is going on here?
Maybe it's the ghost that lives in Mal's lamp.
Remind me to never watch the McNabb murder trial, please.
Well, now I'm intrigued.
I hope
Yeah, I want to watch it.
Oh, you guys can watch that on your own. I hope you feel better, Auntie Cheryl.
I didn't know they only found 2 teeth.
Yep.
Two?
Just two teeth.
Yeah, it says in the thing here they found the radius, humerus, 2 femur, a fibula, 15 ribs, scapula, and ilium, 2 clavicles, 2 teeth, and 2 vertebrae, as well as of miscellaneous bone.
Yeah.
Normally, animals don't have teeth.
They probably just spread though, because I mean they were baby teeth,
They're
so they
so
just fall
tiny.
out. They haven't got any root or anything, so they just fall out and spread.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Dr. Malmo says she didn't know she had a show either. Whatevs. I don't think the
See?
clothes she was wearing were jammies. I think that Cindy made it clear that it was an outfit that she didn't particularly like.
Yes.
Yeah, those shorts weren't pajamas.
All right, let's keep going.
You may continue.
I may not be exactly verbatim, but I asked you if Dr. Werner Spitz came down to participate in the autopsy.
Did he? No.
No? Were you aware of him coming down to want to watch your work?
Overruled.
I was informed by my office manager that Mr. Jose Baez had requested.
He's already allowed me to ask the question.
Well,
She's just answering it.
Overruled. Go ahead and finish asking the question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was informed by my office manager there was a request by Jose Baez to bring an outside person in to watch the autopsy, and our policy in the autopsy is that we have a statutory duty to come up with the cause and manner of death. We would preserve everything possible then and make that available to him when we are finished.
Okay. And you told Mr. Ashton that in your determination of the manner of death, you consider all kinds of circumstances.
Yes, I do.
And in doing that, in this case, are you aware of whether or not Dr. Spitz, in fact, did a second autopsy?
It's a statement.
Okay. Now, I want to go back just briefly to Dr. Goldberger. I've been reminded that he's a
Dr.
medical doctor.
Goldberger? Oh,
Dr.
my
Goldberger?
God.
He's a PhD.
Is he also a medical doctor?
Oh, Jay,
Not
can you
to my
pause it
knowledge.
for 1 sec?
Uh-huh.
Well,
It does say later in the autopsy report the mandible still had 9 lower teeth attached with 4 teeth still present in the maxilla. So there were teeth that were still attached
In the
to
jaw.
her. Yeah.
what things do you know that he tested besides that piece of bone?
Let's see, for volatiles, he tested bone, the scrapings I took from the inside of the bone, the hair and soil that kind of fell out of the hair. And that was for volatiles. And then he tested the bone and then the scrapings from the bone marrow and washings we did from the cranial cavity.
Thanks, Diva.
We tested that for by gas chromatograph for prescription drugs, illicit drugs. And then he tested specifically for alprazolam in the bone, the scrapings of the bone cavity, the washings of the cranial cavity were all then specifically tested for alprazolam.
And alprazolam, what's a more common name?
It's a benzodiazepam, also known as Xanax.
Xanax.
Yes,
So he tested for all those things, and all the results were negative.
that is correct.
And speaking of the cranial wash you did not cut open the cranium, did you?
No, absolutely not.
Now, you told Mr. Ashton also that there was no trauma found in your examination, correct?
No antemortem trauma, meaning prior to death. We found some postmortem trauma from animals chewing on bones. And
You found the postmortem trauma. The anthropologist confirmed to you that there was indication of animal activity, right?
Oh, you could say that.
Okay.
That was part of my examination.
But anything that happened before, there's no evidence of any form of trauma before when this child was alive.
On the bones, there was no evidence of trauma.
And in your exploring all the world of circumstances about this, you didn't find about any trauma either, did you?
No, I did not.
She's got nothing. No Xanax, no cause of death.
So if I understand your testimony, you, the long and short of it is, are confirming that despite the investigations, the toxicology, the anthropologists, all of these things, there is no scientific or medical evidence to establish the cause of this child's death. Is that correct?
The means of the homicide could not be determined.
And you determined to call it a homicide as opposed
Sassy
to
ass.
an accident or indeterminate.
The circumstances of death and did not fit anything but a homicide.
The circumstances.
That's the way the body was found.
Okay.
And not
I know
reporting
that.
the body.
And also what Detective Melich told you.
I'm not. What part did Dr. Melich tell me? The part that the body wasn't reported for 31 days was what
You
he told me.
learned these things from Yuri Melich, an investigator.
That's our
And
standard
some of the
course
things,
of business.
some of the things you learned from the media.
From you?
Media
Oh, media. No, nothing from media would have been entered into my decision.
didn't enter your mind.
Well, I can't take anything that the media would say into a decision as grave as this.
So the bottom line is, when you say and you place a label homicide, the indeterminate means you're saying that circumstantial evidence to you says that it probably was a homicide.
Not probably. I think that is the only logical conclusion based scientifically on some of the scientific information we have, based on observational information we have about homicides and children dying.
What is the scientific information, the circumstance?
Well, we know And of course, systematic observational studies are part of science. That's a big part of forensic. It's a big part of how we know our world. We look at all the accidental drownings, for instance, in my jurisdiction. We systematically went through those. 100% EMS is called immediately when the child is found.
Well, that has nothing to do with this case, does it, Dr.?
Oh, no.
Argumentative.
Sustained.
Okay.
Go ahead, Doctor.
It absolutely has something to do with this case. Every death I investigate has to put into the circumstances of death. You can never, ever determine a manner of death, except in very rare instances, just on examining the body. And so it always has to. So we need to know how usually deaths occur. So we have to know, and there's scientific studies in peer-reviewed literature about some of the red flags for homicide.
Objection to the bolstering. She's now talking about studies. We don't have them.
Overruled.
So by my experience and by what is known about the way homicides occur, I felt that the preponderance of evidence and that there was no other logical conclusion could be found by not reporting a child for 30, who has a legal, moral, and ethical obligation to care for a child, not reporting that child missing. The fact that it's tossed in a field to rot in bags is a clear indication that the body was trying to be hidden. Those are, even it being put in a bag is a very big red flag for homicide and never seen in an accidental death of a child.
Never?
And the fact that there's duct tape anywhere
that's a
attached
big
to that
claim.
child's face.
Wait, you never see a parent conceal an accidental death? Little big for your breeches there, Dr. G. Happens all the time. What about the little boy that was just found in the freezer in Detroit?
Oh my God, yeah.
People conceal it all the time.
Is that an accident? I didn't read that one.
It happens all the time.
Yep, unfortunately.
Is, to me, indication of a homicide.
Okay, now let's back up. What about your circumstantial observations and deductions are scientific, ma'am?
The fact that we know 100% of the time that accidental deaths are reported unless there is a good reason not to be. We know that there is no reason not to report. In fact, if you do not...
That makes no sense. We know 100% of the time that accidental deaths are reported. Unless there's a reason not to be. What?
She said should be reported.
Is that what she said? Because then she said, unless there's a reason it shouldn't be. What reason would there ever be that a child's death shouldn't be reported?
What is known about the way homicides occur, I felt that the preponderance of evidence and that there was no other logical conclusion could be found by not reporting a child for 30, who has a legal, moral, and ethical obligation to care for a child, not reporting that child missing. The fact that it's tossed in a field to rot in bags is a clear indication that the body was trying to be hidden. Those are, even it being put in a bag is a very big red flag for homicide and never seen in an accidental death of a child. And the fact that there's duct tape anywhere attached to that child's face is, to me, indication of a homicide.
Okay, now let's back up. What about your circumstantial observations and deductions are scientific, ma'am?
The fact that we know 100% of the time that accidental deaths are reported unless there is a good reason not to be. We know.
Yeah, she didn't say they should be. She said they are reported.
Are reported.
That's wrong.
Unless there's a reason they shouldn't be.
Right. What reason should they not be reported? In what case would an accidental death of a child not ever be reported? Because the parents either A, are doing something else like the Wells.
Mm-hmm.
They're worried. They don't trust law enforcement. I mean, there's many reasons why people wouldn't report it.
This case, exactly. This case, if that was the facts, this case, if it was an accident, wasn't reported.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But she's saying that all accidental deaths with children are reported. That's what she just stated.
Yes, unless there's reason you don't, which is like for this reason.
Okay, how does she know there was a reason that they didn't? Does she know them?
Well, if she was accidentally drowned, why is she in garbage bags in a field? I think that's what she's insinuating.
Mm-hmm.
But to state that 100% of the time accidental deaths in children are reported is a false statement. So therefore, I don't trust anything else she says. That's a false statement, and that's a very strong claim. I don't care if it was 14 years ago or not. That wasn't that long ago. I mean, people have been covering up accidental deaths of children for ages.
But why do they cover up the accidental deaths? Is it because they died through neglect, or because there was other things that had happened previously that they don't want to be found out? Like, is there a reason for these people?
I mean,
covering up
typically, if a
accidental
kid drowns, yes, you're gonna dial 911 as soon as you find that kid, unless there's something else going on.
Like heavy drug use, you were passed out from something, and your child wandered off.
Or your dad used to be a homicide detective, and he said, "We're all gonna go to fucking jail."
Or that.
Because you were sleeping.
Yeah, so neglect.
But she's
like
saying
it's
it's a
gonna be
homicide.
something.
So she
Yes,
doesn't she doesn't clearly believe that there's anything other than Casey. See, she's right with the narrative for the prosecution. She's not looking at anything else or anyone else.
Mm-hmm. It's the same with Spitz, though. He was looking at it as an accidental death.
Right. So in other words, you got to take both of what they say and put it together to kind of, meet somewhere in the middle, because they both bring valid points.
Know that there is no reason not to report. In fact, if you do not report an injury to authorities, you are risking that child's life. So we know that's partly behavioral science. And we know in all of the cases that come through our morgue that accidents are 100%, particularly on children, are reported unless there is a good reason not to.
So you're trying to tell this jury 100% that there's no way that this death could have been accidental?
No, I said 100% of the time, let's say on a systematic review of drownings, it's one of the more common accidents, 100% of the time when the person finds the child, they call 911 because there is a chance that that child might live. They need to report that and give them a chance.
And what if a person finds an obviously drowned body? It's so obviously deceased. What then? Is there some scientific thing to your conclusion about their morality?
No, but I'm looking at the behavior as a systematic observational information that shows that no matter how stiff that body is, they always call 911 on the hopes that that child could be saved. I'm looking at observational data on that kind of death. That's what we use.
So you're saying then, by your determination, the circumstantial evidence is that's what causes you to conclude it must have been a homicide because you can't explain it any other way.
I explained to you the red flags that we know in forensics
First of all, Doctor,
based on behavioral science.
You need to answer my question.
I don't understand.
Your Honor?
Just a second, folks. Mr. Ashton, objection.
Why does she act so confused? Like, this is an intelligent woman.
My question. The question I asked her called for a yes or no answer.
Please repeat the question.
Objection. Sustained, Mr. Basin. The question did not call for a yes or no answer. So open-ended. So if you want a yes or no answer.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
All right.
Oh my God! Put your hearing aid in, dude.
I don't even know what the question was.
See?
Okay, then let's have a new question.
I don't think he knows what the question was.
He doesn't know. That's why he laughed. He's like, "Look, I don't know either."
Manner of death, you say, based on the circumstantial evidence, you conclude that it was a homicide for the reasons you told us.
I felt that the manner of death, although the cause of death is homicide by undetermined means, I felt the means were unable to be substantiated scientifically. I felt the manner of death was defensible scientifically based on systematic observational studies.
Okay. Of observational studies of other things, other cases.
Of homicide, how homicides occur, how accidents occur, how natural deaths occur, yes.
Other cases.
Other cases.
Okay. Now, by the way, if these remains had been found 4 or 5 months before, would you have had better chance at scientific evidence?
Absolutely.
And incidentally, you said something about duct tape. Isn't it true from what you observed and saw, if there was any duct tape, it was only in the vicinity of the lower mandible?
That's correct.
We have just a minute, Your Honor.
You may. Any redirect? You may proceed.
Doctor, Mr. Mason asked you about your knowledge of the defense's desire to do a second autopsy of the body.
Yes.
Did you attempt to keep the body in exactly the same condition it was when you received it?
Yes, we did, except for what we had to take for a DNA and for the possible toxicologic testing.
You left the roots in the bones just as you found them?
Yes.
And
In
left
fact,
the-
we packaged it nicely so they could keep the anatomic groups together.
And you left the skull intact just as you had found it?
Yes, that's normal procedure for an anthropologic exam is to keep that intact.
Now, the absence of positive results for chloroform or other substances, does that, as a matter medically, exclude the acute use of those substances at or near the time of death?
Right. We would not expect to find any of those things positive in a bones. That was a long shot trying to check for those, but I thought we would be amiss not to at least try. We would not expect any of those to be positive in a set of bones, even if they were positive at the time of death, even if it was present.
Taking for the purposes of my question, the following hypothetical, the following facts. Assume that Kaylee Anthony died and was discarded on or about June 16th of 2008, approximately 6 months before the body was found.
Yes.
At the stage that Mr. Mason was asking you about 4 months earlier, which would have been August, so the body's been out for 2 months. What would be the body's condition after 2 months?
Oh, well, it's probably be skeletonized. Certainly would be skeletonized by then.
So if the body had been found in, let's see, August, would you expect that it would have been skeletonized with very little soft tissue?
Yes, I would expect it to be skeletonized.
Would you expect the internal organs to be completely
gone?
Thank you. No further questions.
So she's saying that within 2 months, was it? That she would be completely skeletonized?
I'm sure out in that Florida heat and the animals. I mean, Brian.
Okay.
Brian Laundrie was.
So within 2 months, is she basing this on, did she have could she tell how long the bones had been out there? Total? Or no?
Or no.
Or no. I'm just wondering, because if they're skeletonized within 2 months, if she went missing in June, mid-June, Roy Cronk was out there August 11th, and he saw a skull.
Yeah, so 2 months.
Yeah, that's 2 months.
I mean, with the animals and being a child, they decompose way quicker than adults do anyway.
And in the heat and in swamp as well.
And yeah, water, heat. I mean, that's summer. I mean, Brian Laundrie was in a hot minute, and she was just a child, so there's not much of her to decompose.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah. She's done. Dr. G's done. So go ahead.
Okay. Just to address Dr. Melmo, they end their comment, this is most likely a murder. Most likely. You can't for 100% say that this is a homicide based on what was found. She is guessing, and that cannot be accepted when it comes to something like this. She cannot be 100% that this was a homicide.
No, she can't.
She's speculating.
I mean, I get that, she's found in bags with tape over the mouth, but it still could have been covered up.
And I'm not saying by any means that I think that this wasn't a homicide. I do. But you have to be 100% sure when making an accusation like this, especially when it goes into an official autopsy report.
Yeah, and I also want to say, too, about the reporting of accidents. What I meant by that is when she states 100% of the time accidents are reported, and I say, no, they're not. I'm not saying that's right, but it happens. And maybe what she meant by unless there's a reason not to, meaning drugs or, someone has a warrant or CPS is already involved in their lives. I mean, that's exactly what I thought of with the Wells, is that they already had CPS in their lives and they don't trust law enforcement or the system because they've been in it their whole lives. And I felt like they thought they'll never believe us that it was an accident. They're going to think that we did it.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that her death was a homicide. It means it still could be an accident, but it wasn't reported. Because they did call 911, but I don't think they told the truth. So that's why I didn't like that comment saying 100% of the time. Because I think that's misleading to a jury. Because if I'm a jury and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, this medical examiner is telling me it can't be an accident because it would have been reported. That's not true. You can't put that thought in their heads, in my opinion.
Lee didn't believe her because she's
Yeah.
free.
And they did believe it was an accident, I guess.
Yeah.
I just think I think the jurors just did not have a cause of death. They didn't have a picture painted for them for what this girl did.
Yeah. And that cause of death thing, the judge actually said afterwards that he wished that he would have given jury instructions that they didn't have to worry about the cause of death.
I wish they would have given other charges because I think they would have found her guilty of something.
Yeah, they aim too high. I mean, they were going for a death penalty, so that jury didn't want to put someone to death that they couldn't prove actually did murder a child.
They weren't going to risk it.
Exactly.
I mean,
They
would
take
you?
someone's life. They aimed way
No,
too
and if you're a juror and you have that on your conscience for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It is. This was a really tough case. I don't know who this guy is, but when I clicked on the video, I thought it was kind of funny.
I was pointing.
him. I don't know who he is. I think I think he's a doctor, but anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. My back is actually really killing me. That's why I'm not my usual self tonight.
That's not good. You need to go rest.
Yeah. Like
Take
Dr.
something
Melba
for your
said,
pain.
some Motrin.
Yeah.
Was Casey found guilty of neglect?
Nope.
No.
She was found guilty of something. What was it?
Lying.
Lying to police.
Oh, to law enforcement.
Lying.
Oh, law enforcement just couldn't stand it. They had to get her on that.
How she wasn't charged with neglect, though, is beyond me.
Yeah.
I mean, just for simply not saying anything. For her saying, oh, I was going about my own means for 31 days. That right there should be child endangerment and neglect.
Yeah, neglect
That is
100%.
I don't think that was part of it. I think they just went for murder, one death penalty. I don't think they ever gave other options.
No, they didn't. And that was the problem because they either had to go for capital murder or nothing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. They did nothing.
They didn't even give the option of, manslaughter or anything. It just went for premeditated murder. I mean,
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, because if it would have went lesser, they could have always come back and charged her with more if she got away with the lesser.
Yeah.
But they could have at least, if it was manslaughter, I think, got her in jail for some time, you know?
Yep.
And I get it. I mean, I think that prosecutors are in a tough place, too, when there's a dead kid that's found. Like, they have so much pressure on them from the public for justice. And, I mean, they really have a lot of pressure on them, too, the prosecutors. I know we're hard on them. But, I mean, they ultimately have to face the media. And, I don't know. I think they have a tough job as well.
They do.
And I mean, for the charges she did get, she pretty much got time served for waiting during trial.
Yeah, she was done. She was free to go. But I think the next one we're going to be wrapping it up is going to be our last one. So what's today, Wednesday? Yeah, so we'll have to figure out when we're going to do that last one. But we'll let you guys know, and thanks for sticking around. We were live for almost 4 hours.
Wow.
I know. I need to go. I think I'm just going to go take the dogs for a walk just to stretch my legs. Like, when you have the sciatica, it feels better to stand up. than it does to sit down. But I saw somebody say chiropractic, and I need to go back to the chiropractor because it does help. Because something's just popped out. Like when they lay me on my side, they do this like weird. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the chiro, but they like lay you on your side and then they like bend your leg and then they push down, and it just feels so good right there because it just pops it right back.
Relieves it.
It does. It's like instant relief. You can feel it. So
I sent the PDF in text to for autopsy.
Oh, okay, cool. I think I'm gonna go look at those photos and stuff because I never really looked at them before, and then we can maybe talk about them next time and wrap it up with the closing.
Yeah.
And the verdict.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we got through Cronk. We survived.
Don't know how, but we did.
We did it. All right, you guys. Thanks for coming up on panel. I know it was a long live, but I appreciate you guys. And, of course, everyone in chat, thank you so much. And be looking for that next event. And we'll see you guys soon.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye. Bye, Dr. Melmo.
I don't give a damn. I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. 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 You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to friends, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time, I ain't got time, I ain't got time for that. Staying up late, sleeping all day, dreaming about Cadillacs. Buying new shoes, hanging by the pool, sipping on Coke and Jack. Calling my phone when you feel alone, but I'll never call you back. 'Cause I ain't got time, I ain't got time. I don't give a damn. I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. 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 You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to friends, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time, I ain't got time, I ain't got time for that.